Ooh, we're going
Hi,
live.
guys, and welcome back to the Library of Alexandria. And today, guys, we have been graced for the first episode of the long-running series, Jared Checks on Smaller Channels. And we after entering the lottery, which cost us $1,500 USD for 10 entries, and if we shared it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and via email, we got 10 more entries each time, and we happened to be the lucky winner. And so Jared from the channel Jared Henderson, you all know him from his check mark. He is going Jared of the 600K subscribers. It's the largest person's ever been on my channel ever.
I'm sorry. I have to correct you. It's closer to 550. So I don't want to oversell.
Okay, sorry. Is it like 558?
Something. I don't know. I haven't checked in a while.
Oh, of course.
It just keeps going up.
Of course not. But make sure you keep us up to date on your 20,000 a month subscriber gain. So anyway, you certainly know Jared because 600,000 people know him. A paltry 12,000 that we finally capped after 3 years, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I don't want it to seem like we went from 0 to 12,000 in 3 years. We went from 11 to 12,000 in 3 years. But yes, Mr. Checkmark, seeing you around. You have a second channel, Jared. Does it also have 1 million subscribers?
It's got like 15,000.
So guys, even Jared's second channel is larger than we are here at the library. On time, y'all hush. Of course I'm on time. I'm always on time. My shirt does say I heart Pericles. So Jared, thanks for coming on.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really happy to be here, Alan. I was like looking forward to this. You can ask Jimmy if you think I'm ever not being sincere. I was telling him I really was looking forward to talking to you.
Yeah, people have told us that we need to talk since like you first went on Jimmy and I was in the comments, and I was like, yeah, we do. And then I don't schedule anything because I have executive dysfunction, I suppose. But I mean, just look at this. We planned to talk, like a month ago, and then we just, I'm bad at DMs anyway. And then it's like, oh, hey, you responded back like, hey, you should do this. And then I'm like, hey, wait, we should probably talk about something. And then we set it up. Because they will tell you in a stream, I was talking about virtue, and I was trying to talk about the ancients and what they say about virtue. And it was the one time where I'm like, where's Jared? Like Jared could back me up on this stuff, on examining the good life and what is a good man and all that kind of stuff. Wolf Hall.
Do you know about Wolf Hall? Do you know about Hilary Mantel?
I do. I mean, I know that Hilary Mantel wrote Wolf Hall about Cromwell, Thomas Cromwell, not Oliver. But I've not read it.
I'm a huge fan of Hilary Mantel. I'm a huge fan of Wolf Hall in particular. And then I guess if you were watching Jimmy's streams and you watched me in the comments from Jimmy's streams, you would hear Jimmy read Wolf Hall because of me, and then he DNF'd it. And he says it's because he needs to give it his full attention. He says it's because it deserves his attention. But all I know is that he DNF'd what I think is it won the Booker Prize. Like, this is one of these things.
Jimmy first two won the Booker Prize, didn't they?
Two of them won the Booker Prize. The third
didn't. Yeah.
Jimmy has set himself up. Okay, we're gonna start off with some Jimmy slander, I suppose. He's like, hey,
it has to be untrue if it's slander.
Okay, good point. We're gonna tell some hard truths about Jimmy Nuts here.
I agree.
Jimmy has been like, I'm not one of those fantasy guys anymore. I read real books.
Of course.
I read. He calls them grandma books, but then he smiles and does that close-up camera, so you know that actually he like means it, right?
Yeah,
it's two levels of irony, and now we realize it's just back to sincerity.
Sure.
And then I give him one of those books, and I say, "Hey, Jimmy, here's one of those renowned books. Here's one of those books everybody loves, and like all the critics agree, and also they're right about it." And then he's just like, sorry, it's just not for me."
He needs to give it his full attention.
You got to pick a side here. He's just sitting on a fence.
I know. We're at war. We need to pick a side. He either needs to be with he needs to either be with us in the fantasy crowd or with the grandma Booker Prize, Pulitzer, Percival Everett.
He needs to read Wolf Hall, or he needs to get back and read another Sanderson novel or something. And I know what I'm choosing
Look,
if those are the stakes.
I hear that the next Chatting with Nuts is going to be all about the Ghost Bloods announcement coming out after I think it's after the next Stormlight book. I don't know when it is.
Well,
Oh
I'm
no, we're getting a new Hoyd book after Stormlight 10. So, ladies and gentlemen, mark your calendars. 12 years from now, you're gonna find all about Hoyd.
awesome. Okay, cool. I've read a fair amount of Sanderson, and I feel nothing about this.
Look, a
I
Hoyd
feel
trilogy. A Hoyd trilogy. Don't even know what that is. Other than that, that's a character in multiple books. Guess what, guys? Just spoiled it for you. That's all I know. So, Jared, why do you have a channel on philosophy? What on earth would possess any human to start a other than clearly is the path to 600,000 subscribers? Other than that, why on earth would anybody start a channel devoted to navel gazing?
well, so I didn't just start a channel about philosophy. I decided to study it in school.
Now,
So I was a philosophy major,
I want
and so
I want to go after that, but like
mhm.
I'm a big proponent of humanities in education,
Yeah, yeah,
so I
yeah, yeah.
can't. So the major is
Did you
fine.
study classics?
No, none of the schools
Oh,
I
okay.
went to had any classics classes at all.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
I was in Latin in high school, and then my degree I studied like international relations. I'm an international politics major with a minor in Japanese, and then
Huh.
so a
Okay.
lot of my classics study has been just reading, and teaching the last 11 years while
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
a teacher.
So I was going to compliment you, but I suppose it doesn't apply now. But it's not an
No,
insult. I just really tend to respect classics majors because it's a major that it's very hard to fake your way through.
yeah, for sure.
You tend to actually have to know what you're doing. Um, but yeah, so I studied philosophy, and then I went and got a PhD in philosophy, and then I went into tech, and that was a huge mistake, and I hated every second of it.
Oh, really?
And I started making philosophy videos again to sort of reclaim philosophy for myself, to sort of fall in love with it all over again. And I didn't just do philosophy videos at the very beginning. I mean, I did a lot of book videos. I think I was more of a book channel back then. And it was very common for people to say like, "Oh, he's like a booktube channel," which is fine. I don't like deny it, but it's just not my focus now.
Yeah.
And so I was just doing my favorite books, or I did a video fairly early on that was like fantasy and science fiction with like great prose and big ideas. And so it was just like I was sort of setting a tone for the channel early on, talking about that stuff. Um, I just decided to focus more on the philosophy to really play into my strengths, which is that I happen to know a lot about the stuff. I like to read it more, uh, and I can bring something more interesting to the conversation. I keep trying to think like, is there a way to bring the science fiction stuff back in a little bit more, or some of the fantasy stuff, like a philosophy of sort of stuff. Like I was working on a philosophy of Tolkien video for a while, and I keep thinking it's possible, and then I just never get around to doing that
Do you
again.
still
So
read
I just end up,
any science fiction or fantasy, or is it all
yeah,
philosophy these days?
no, no, no. I read a fair amount of science fiction and fantasy. I just finished catching up on the Sun Eater books, so like that was because I hadn't read Disquiet Gods.
Right on.
Um, then I did that, but I'm reading an Ian M. Banks novel right now. The Culture. I love the Culture books, the ones that I've read. I'm reading Look to Windward right now. Um, I lately some of the fiction I've been picking out for myself, like to look forward to in the future, has been more like a little more literary stuff, a little
Mm,
more getting hyped in that circle. But I don't think people realize in the last like 15 to 20 years, genre bending, as some people call it, has just become much more common. So
mhm.
you're gonna find those like fantastical elements in a lot of that stuff, anyways. So I'm still reading quite a bit of that.
Wow.
But philosophy has come to take up
Yeah.
more of my time. I
Hi
started
here,
reading
loving
this
the
book.
culture. I have considered Phoebus, but have not yet read any of the culture yet. I tend to like I just tend to not read sci-fi, and I don't really know why. Every now and then I'll just stumble on it and be like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and read Daniel Abraham's, I guess James S. A. Corey, whatever it is, The Mercy of Gods, and then it's just like, okay, I don't read another sci-fi book for a year or whatever. But I hear the culture's good, so I have some ready to
I
go.
like the culture a lot. Each book is very different. Um, Consider Phoebus is kind of the more like adventure
Mhm.
one. It's very much kind of like it's almost like a romp. Um, Here's like this guy going on this like a couple of adventures. I love use of weapons probably uh
Is that the
the
second one,
most.
or is Player of Games
It's
the
like
second
third or
one? Okay.
fourth. Um, but Player of Games is maybe my, yeah, actually Player of Games is probably my favorite that I've read. I haven't read them all though. And some of them are not easily available in the U.S. Um, and I think the UK is doing some dumb like reissue stuff or something. But Alan, I wanted to suggest a book to you, and I
Okay.
don't mean this. I'm not trolling you yet. I just have been reading this book lately, called A History of Reading by Alberto Manguel.
Hmm.
I just think you would really dig it. It's just like it's sort of these like short chapters about the history of reading, but they're all just done so well, and they're so beautiful. And so I don't know. I think you would really like it. I just wanted to make a sincere recommendation to you.
All right, cool. So I put it on my Goodreads, and then that's step one. Step two is to make it to my Amazon list, and then step three is to have it sit in my office until I'm like, you know what? I'm not reading any of this crap I said I was going to read. I'm gonna pick up something
Yeah,
else.
yeah, yeah.
Right on. Yeah, y'all make sure you click that like button and hit that bell notification so you don't miss anything else. Why would Jared go on a rant? I guess you could. Hey, Jared, how do you feel about Wizards of the Coast and their monetization? Their
I
monetization.
feel
If y'all haven't
like,
seen Jared's most recent video,
yeah, I hate Wizards of the Coast. I hate everything they've done with Magic the Gathering. I hate all of their money grubbing tactics. I hate everything they've done with Dungeons and Dragons.
me too.
Um, I basically have completely lost interest in everything that they do. Um, I used to. Now, if I were gonna like do tabletop role playing stuff, I don't have time anymore. I would totally just be playing the indie games,
Hmm.
instead of Dungeons and Dragons stuff, because I have no interest in, you know, essentially supporting the like the WotC people or Hasbro in general.
Yeah.
Just because like I get a sense like they just like don't like the games that much. Like their choices are not motivated by a genuine love of the game.
And
So
so
yeah,
this is we're gonna Evie, we're gonna talk about Vimes. Give me a second. We're gonna talk about Vimes because Vimes is the solution to Jimmy. We slandered you earlier. Actually, I should say that Jared slandered you earlier.
it's
Um,
not slander because it's
you're right.
true, as
Sorry,
you said.
Jared told some hard truths about you earlier, Jimmy. So you should just rewind and watch that in double speed so you catch up. Um, I don't understand why so many people are at the helms of creative endeavors. And I know how the online bro crowd responds with like, well, business people need to run businesses. Yeah, that's fine. But why are there so many people in at the head of creative endeavors that give no, they don't give any rips about the creative endeavor
Hmm.
itself. Like,
Yeah,
like it's like culture has become homogenized. Like everything is the same because that's the way to monetize it, I suppose. And so nothing has any kind of individual identity because it's just squeezing. And I talk about this on the channel all the time. Why everyone needs to squeeze every red cent out of everything, everything.
hmm,
And I'm not again, ladies and gentlemen, not a sickle waving Soviet. I don't have the Soviet national anthem playing. I don't have a copy of the Little Red Book. I'm not waving it around. However, like, there's nothing wrong with people making money. Why must people make every single brass farthing from everything at the expense of everything else? Like
yeah.
there is no good. There is no good but money. Any other
Hmm.
good that comes out of it is that's irrelevant. Who cares? Who cares? As long as we squeeze every last drop. What do you have to say about that, Jared? And what would some philosophers say about that?
Well, I don't know what I mean. Lots of philosophers say lots of different things, right?
Sure.
That's the hard part. Like philosophers are no more collectively insightful because
I love
we tend to
Android.
believe anything. But I it does seem like um just the incentive is like appeal to as broad of an audience as possible. And I can loop this back actually to something I had to kind of think about recently. So appeal to as broad of an audience as possible, and then Just worry about getting them on like a perpetual revenue stream. That's the thing that they want. Don't sell them a really great product once. Sell them a mediocre product that they can never unsubscribe from. That's basically like that's the Adobe model. Basically, like lock them in, and it's like an adversarial relationship to your customers instead of, um, I don't know, some kind of cooperative model or a model where you actually think I'm providing something of value, and thus they are giving me value in exchange. And that's I think what's so frustrating. I mean, I've had to, occasionally you have to think about this if you're creating stuff for a large audience. It's like, do you aim for, I don't know, 10 million people to watch something? Um, but knowing that in order to get 10 million people to watch it, you necessarily have to like the stuff that you're making less.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
often the trade-off, right? That's often the trade-off. And all of us are going to draw lines somewhere. I probably have not drawn that line where other people are always comfortable. I haven't always drawn that line in a place where I'm comfortable, but um, I do like to err a little bit more towards actually liking the stuff that I make
Yeah.
more than, maximizing monthly revenue or something.
Yeah. I can't do it, Jared. Like I can't. Like I can't. Like I have difficult enough time making content that I like, let alone putting in the effort to make content that I don't care about. Like I don't care. I don't care about making a clickbait thumbnail and hey guys, do y'all want to know what the top 10 Reddit fantasy books are? You know what you can do? Go to Reddit and you can find those out. Like, why do I need to be your source of that information? Like, I, I don't want to knock what people do, but I do personally do not see the value in that particular thing because then I'm BuzzFeed. Then I'm a link tree where I'm
Mm-hmm.
just you know delivering. I'm a newsletter. I'm delivering what other people are saying, and I don't really have anything like that. It's why is there no
I
value? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I sent you some YouTube advice like months ago that you never responded to.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I've talked to Jimmy about this before. Yeah, because you talked about with him like making history videos where you would make videos that would basically make your sort of like your fact, like some weird fact about the stuff or the stuff that you would teach about in your high school classes.
yeah.
And I feel like you could make those videos. They would be very clickable. I would suggest making a totally different channel for it. Just starting over. Just separate it out, right? And don't give it. I'm sorry. Do not give it the name Alexandria. Like give it a name that people can spell. But but do something
Are
like
y'all
that
hearing? Are y'all
and making
hearing
like
this? He's coming in and burning down the library.
and then to like make 15 to 20 minute history videos. And I think honestly you do quite well. And I think that you wouldn't have to think that hard about making it fun or clickable. In fact, here's the thing. I want everyone in the chat to shame Alan for this. Not only did I give Alan this advice on Discord, I'm going to read exactly the message that I wrote. I have to scroll up because it's taken so long. I wrote, you should make a separate history channel, 20 to 30 minutes of Roman history. And then I wrote, I'll help you brainstorm 15 videos.
I have no recollection of any of
I
those.
I offered I offered to get on a call with Alan and brainstorm 15 videos, and then he could just pick 5 to make as a trial. I,
Everyone's on that
I
case. A gaming channel, a history channel. How many channels I got, Pete? So I don't remember that.
I would I would I would not do a gaming channel. I would just do your strength, and your strength is that you know history really well and that you're funny, and that's
I,
I think that you would be able to do both of those, and it would be
so
like together, and they'd be good.
okay, well I apologize for I clearly ignored that. I didn't mean to. Um Part of but the thing is part of what I like about history, and here's part of the reason that I like talking about history and why I like teaching it is the continued sustained narrative of history. And I have a really hard time. I have a really hard time uh, distilling things down. Like I take a bunch of sources and synthesize something and make it like, okay, so I have high schoolers. They are not going to care about this, this, and this. They certainly don't care what Diodorus Siculus said over here about this. But this is juicy. I'll put this in here. and like combine this stuff into how can I make the narrative better for high schoolers. But it tends to, but it's long form is the problem. I'm not sure I know how to make history videos in the short form, which I think would be where I would run into barriers. Is I don't know what I would do. So does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think this is all solvable. Um, I will reiterate, if you ever wanted to just get on a call, not only brainstorm the videos, I would help you draft like a structure for one or two of them so you could see what it would be like. I'm not gonna help you write the script because like that's gonna be a lot of work, but like
Yeah,
give you a
sure.
structure for how to do it or something like that. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I think you should totally do it, man. It's like I think it would be. I keep doing this because it's fun and people like you and you're having a good time and you have friends, etc. Like I feel like that's like the main reason here, but man, just like I think it's there, and I think we need more. Like I don't know. Did you like Horrible Histories, like that BBC show?
I have
They're
only seen a couple of them.
okay, but like it's kind of like fun history, right?
Yeah.
And there was the guy who was behind Horrible Histories, whose name I can't remember, but it was like Greg something, had a great BBC podcast um too, where he would sort of have a historian and a comedian, and for an hour they would talk about just
No,
like
that's fun.
Boudica.
That
And then
that's fun. Not
and then
booty.
they would and then at the end they would have the comedian have 60 seconds to try and repeat back, like to summarize what they had learned,
Dang, that's fun.
which was and then they would give the historian something called like the nuance window, where they got 60 seconds to like make the case that like something's more complicated than their peers are willing to admit or
Yeah,
something like that. And it was just like a really fun format where they mixed comedy with the sort of actual, you could actually learn a little bit of history.
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
If I
that's
find that
that's
podcast, I'll let you know.
please send it to me. Real quick, Simon. Thanks for the 10 spot. I don't know what the top 10 Reddit fantasy books are, but they're the same they are every year. It doesn't change year to year. I don't know why I need to be informed repeatedly. And none of them are by KJ Parker. Simon, none of them. None of them. They are not anywhere near Reddit's top 10. I promise. Oh my goodness. Now we make.
Did you know that have I told you that I thought KJ Parker was a woman for a really long time?
Everyone did until it came out like that it was Tom Holt. Like a bunch, I read a bunch of old reviews about his books and stuff, and they constantly say she,
Oh,
because
interesting.
he didn't, like, no one knew who it was. And I guess women are statistically more likely, at least in one period, to use initials to, um, make
Yeah,
them
yeah.
more sellable.
I had constructed this entire like mythology about you, Alan, based on the assumption that KJ Parker was a woman. Because I would come in and everyone would joke about how you don't read women. And I was like, oh, but his favorite author is KJ Parker. So this is like this big joke about how KJ Parker's a woman or something like this. And then to find out KJ Parker's a man, like just this image I had constructed in my mind of you, just it turned to
I don't know
sand.
what it started, guys. Those of you who are around when I was in Shelf Space, where did the "I don't read women" thing come from? Where did it come? Because it started with something, and I forget. It started like my first year on BookTube, and I have no idea what its genesis is.
Did it start with you not reading women?
No,
Was
no,
that
it
the
didn't, because a bunch of those books I read in Shelf Space were by women, like Jade City. I think what happened is, like, it just so happened that I think a couple books I read in that year I didn't like, and they happened to be, because I DNF'd the first book I DNF'd on BookTube. No, I take it back. The second book I DNF'd on BookTube was Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and that was by a woman. And I thought that
Oh
was,
yeah, is that Becky Chambers? Something like
yes, and
that?
I did not enjoy it. But the first book I DNF was by a dude,
Yeah.
by the Witcher dude,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Andre,
yeah.
whatever,
But
Tower of Fools.
I think both of those are worth DNFing. I haven't read I mean those writers. I mean I've heard other people like those monk and robot books by Chambers, I think. All I know is that like I read like one page, it didn't really grip me, and I DNF pretty quickly in the first like 10 pages. And I just like don't like the feel of it.
Yeah,
And I think like it was like I don't know, when I read the description of that book, it was like, oh, the monk is a therapist. That was like what it was. And it's like I just didn't want to read a book about therapy. And
word.
so I
So I take it
so I just,
you've read Wind and Truth.
I read like 200 pages of Wind and Truth,
Is it also
and I
about
had an
therapy? That's
ebook.
what I understood.
Well, I think it was getting there, and then I stopped reading it.
Gotcha.
And I was trying to read it super fast because I was like, look, I've read so much Sanderson. At one point, I really liked Sanderson, and then I just like progressively soured on him. I was like, but let's finish, this arc of Stormlight. And I was like 200 pages in. I was reading it on an e-reader, and I saw that it was like 16% of the, it was I had, and I was just mad. I felt angry. Like my chest, I was gonna have a heart attack. Like
Ugh,
I thought I was gonna go into heart failure, and I was gonna leave. My son was gonna be an orphan because I was reading a Brandon Sanderson book, and Brandon Sanderson got a lot of money, but he's not gonna pay for my kid's college.
no.
So I had to stop, and I just won't read Sanderson anymore, despite the fact that he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, I mean,
But
he
I
seems
just
fine. He
I
just
just
is.
can't do I just can't do it.
Yeah, I will eventually read Stormlight just to go through. But I mean, this is one of these, like, the ecosystem's been contaminated. Like, there's no way we could ever find out what I would have thought about Stormlight had I not
Hmm.
been in the blogosphere, where
Hmm.
now the entire experience is tainted for good or ill. Um,
Hmm.
so I didn't like Akatar. I did not like it at all. I said it wasn't terribly written. I just did not enjoy it in any way. I think Sarah J. Maas, as a writer who strings words together, is not inept at that craft. I just think her attempts to build a coherent story are poor in Akatar. And also Poppy War, I liked. Sorry, go ahead.
I subscribe to this website that has like publishing news and stuff. And I got an email from them. It was sort of, it's very like insidery, kind of like what's going on in the publishing. And it was like Bloomsbury's sales fall in the UK while everyone anticipates new Moss book. And it was like this, what she's like such a force that as we wait for a new Sarah J. Moss book,
That's insane. She
Publishers Marketplace, which is related.
So when I first saw you, I think it's in the comments or on one of your videos, somewhere I saw you in the ecosphere, and you were
Yeah.
talking about Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. And so the
Hmm.
problem is, so the pro I don't know how you read so much philosophy, Jared. And I understand you're a philosophy major and you enjoy it. I just don't understand how anybody enjoys it, because while I like the ideas from philosophy, reading the actual ancient philosophers are just that it's just a drag. Like trying to read Aristotle, like Aristotle's, and I've read bits and pieces of it. I've read a bunch of Plato, mostly of Socratic dialogues. Like I hate Phaedro. I hate it. I don't want to talk
Huh.
about forms. I don't want to talk about forms, Jared. I don't want to talk about the form of the opposite or the form of like what?
I find
I'll
it
talk about the
genuinely
infinite world.
surprising you think Aristotle's not fun to read, though. I think Aristotle is actually very fun to read.
I like
Yeah.
Aristotle's science. Like I like Aristotle's, like on the Athenian Constitution. Like I like his.
Hmm.
I like his more scientific, and I don't love philosophical treatises. But the thing is like, so when I generally talk about my opinions on ancient philosophers, I'm speaking of them as historical figures, not as philosophers. So
Hmm.
when I
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
I love Aristotle, I'm not, and someone's like, "You love Aristotle?" Like he said that there was no difference between Persians and slaves, and that those people should be treated the same way one would regard a plant. And I mean,
Hmm.
that's they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, but Aristotle is like a dude, like, is
Hmm.
fascinating. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fact
Yeah.
that he, was much gaudier than his predecessors, Socrates and Plato, who had like rings on every finger or something. Um, had a lisp. Like Alexander was just like, this is how a philosopher looks. Like this is what
Hmm.
Aristotle looks like. So and I hate Plato because he was a meathead wrestler. Jimmy is Plato if we're fan casting here.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I could. Yeah, I can kind of see that. I will say about reading the stuff. I have remarked before that I think reading philosophy is sort of like making sure you eat enough fiber. Like you generally enjoy it more after the fact
Yeah.
than during. And so I think that reading philosophy is like that. It's often kind of arduous in the moment.
Hmm.
I'm very rarely like swept away by a philosopher as I am reading their work. But it's as you think through it more and more, and you keep seeing, oh, there's like more of these like layers of meaning, and interpretation. Um, and then to just find like connections between like what you've been thinking and what other people throughout history have thought. Like I think that part is actually maybe the most thrilling part for me now. I was doing a thing on my Substack where we're reading Plato's Republic, and then we were discussing the allegory of the cave. And I made this remark about how I was interpreting the allegory of the cave, and I wasn't mentioning the forms. And I was like, and this is why I'm not mentioning it. And someone's like, oh, did you know like Heidegger in a lecture, like he makes that same move, right? He does that too. And I was like, and now look, just having the superficially similar idea to like a famous person isn't, enough to show like, wow, you had a great idea. But I think that's so cool that like we in like very different times and places kind of stumbled on this because we were reading these same texts too. And I find there's almost something kind of romantic about that.
I enjoy listening to you talk. I can actually learn a whole bunch from your breadth of knowledge here in philosophy because I just like I don't read a ton of philosophy. Most of my nonfiction books tend to be, history books. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and political theory books, which can
When
also be a huge drag.
when my book is published, I will send you a free copy.
Will you really?
Yeah, I'll send you a
Is
copy.
it good or is it arduous to get through?
Honestly, I was writing something today, and I looked at it and thought, that's pretty good.
Oh, nice, nice. Much of my
You don't feel
philosophy,
that.
I took
You
I
don't
took
feel that
a
every day.
philosophy and ethics class in college, and that was
Mm-hmm.
my first exposure to just the idea of philosophy. Because again, I took like 5 years of Latin in high school, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really like dive into the classics until post college. I was a wastrel like until I was 30 and
Mm-hmm.
decided I needed to get my life together. And so
Oh yeah, I used to hate the history of philosophy, and I was only like a modern literature guy for a long time. So like if it wasn't like the 20th century on was all I would read.
oh gosh.
Um, and I only wanted to do sort of like contemporary philosophy, and that's like when I was doing my PhD. It's like that. I barely did any history, and it was actually once I left academia that I sort of discovered how much I like the history of philosophy.
Did you
Um,
were you a teacher?
So I did
Professor?
teach while I was getting my PhD.
Gotcha.
I taught and I adjuncted it at a couple of schools as well to pay for bill. Like the semester before I got married, I was adjuncting at a separate school while still doing like finishing my dissertation and teaching at the school where I was getting my PhD, just because I needed a few $1,000s to pay for a wedding. So
So you're Dr. Jared?
I am Dr. Jared Henderson.
Guys, we got something else to add to the check mark. Dr. Jared check mark Henderson. That would be his wrestling name. Check mark Henderson. This was
It's kind of like when you become it's like when you become a cardinal in the Catholic Church. They throw cardinal in the middle.
yes, exactly. This isn't supposed to be. Jimmy didn't have CWN. I checked that there was no CWN tonight. What are they talking about? Okay, Jimmy says he was thinking about how Ygritte and Jon Snow in the cave is Gurm nodding to Plato's cave, sitting around Jon Snow knowing nothing, and a new world opens him. Is that true? How do you feel about that?
Sure. I haven't
Okay.
read it in a very long time, so let's say yeah. I do think there's something that like that could be something. Yeah.
Allegory of the nuts here with with Jimmy. Oh my gosh. So the one thing that I learned about you early is that you are a huge fan of at least the City Watch books. Do you like the rest of Discworld? You just like City Watch.
I like the rest of Discworld. I like City Watch the most.
I am
Um,
exactly with you. We
can
are
I give
brethren.
you like my can I give you my general overview of how I feel about Discworld, and
Yeah,
then we can dive into it.
yeah.
One, I think people who say that the first two books are bad or are like a bad entry to the series are idiots, like total fools. I think they're fun. I think uh, they show a lot of Pratchett's humor, and they are Rincewind when he's at his most enjoyable. The later Rincewind novels aren't as good, I think. So I think especially in like Two Flower, right? The
Yeah.
tourist from like the counterweight continent. I think
Mhm.
that's super enjoyable. I love all of that. But I also kind of like that classic fantasy sort of pastiche stuff, anyways. So maybe that helps a little bit. Um, I like all the death books a lot.
Of course you do. Of course
Uh,
you do.
though I only recently read Hogfather for the first time. I had just been like putting it off for a
Hogfather
long
was my
time,
first
and
Discworld
now,
book.
oh, okay, wow, wow. So I love those. But Reaper Man is probably my favorite death book. Um, and then I kind of like the Witches books, but I think they're like just okay. I know a lot of people have really high opinions of them. I've never found them as funny. I really I read Thief of Time recently and kind of was bummed out. Like I didn't think
Really? It's like
that
the isn't it the most philosophical of the death books?
uh yeah, I felt very little. I really like the Moist von Lipwig stuff, like going postal, making
Oh,
money,
great.
raising steam. I like all of those. A lot, but nothing beats the City Watch books. I think
I agree.
because I like all of those characters the most. I think that Men at Arms is the only time I've actually teared up at a Pratchett book.
Oh, I know.
No, I take that back. Night Watch definitely like broke me too. But there is a death at in Men at Arms, and that really affected me. And it showed me that these books could be funny while also being very emotionally impactful. And I really like Sam Vimes like a lot. I really
Yes.
like Sam Vimes. So
Yes.
I have never reread a Discworld novel except for City Watch books. Um, so I've reread those kind of slowly, and I haven't gotten around to like reading Night Watch again. But I know I'm just gonna be like devastated
Yeah.
when I read Night Watch. Yeah. So
If he wants us to make a
Discworld,
philosophy of Discworld series,
that's a lot of work.
that's what I'm
Have
saying.
you seen how rarely both of us post?
I know.
You
Like
see how difficult this would be.
it's insane. Jared, I'm one of the people that says don't start with the first two books.
Okay,
But
well,
it's because, Jared, it is because of my own personal anecdote experience of having people start with. I read Hogfather and then I started with Color of Magic, but I had read Hogfather, so I knew what Terry Pratchett had grown into, and so I was
yeah,
fine. I have seen too many people, like personally, recommended Discworld, and they start with Color of Magic and they don't like it, so they don't read any more Pratchett. And that is the reason that I don't recommend that, just because I don't trust people
yeah,
to believe me when I'm like, guys, just read it and you'll be fine. Like, just go through and you'll be fine. Too many people
yeah.
quit.
Maybe it was just because I actually just had no idea what I was getting into. I read them started late. I read them when I was in my first or second year of grad school, and I was just like looking for something really fun and light. And I was like, well, I'll read these. And my friend was like, you got to just read the guards books or just read like the death books. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna read publication order. That was what I
Yeah.
thought I would do. And I started, and I laughed a ton. And then I read Mort. Wait, is Equal Rights before Mort? Is it
Equal
Equal
Rights
Rights
is
and then
three, Mortis four.
okay, yeah, Equal Rights. And I was like, oh, that's what a Discworld novel is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it turns out that's the first real Discworld novel
Yeah.
in the kind of the type of story he's going to tell. And
Mm-hmm.
by the way, I think Equal Rights is great.
Yeah. I like Equal
I,
Rights a lot.
I, I love Equal Rights. I think I sometimes will say to my wife, it's in the lore
Yes, it
as
is in the lore.
and she has not read Equal Rights, but I've tried to explain this joke to her many times. And I'll just do it's in the lore when I mean I don't want to explain it,
Yes.
and we're just doing this like it's in the lore. We're
That's
doing it
that's
this
why
way.
that's why women can't be wizards.
Yeah,
It's in the,
exactly.
it's in the
So
lore.
yeah, so I
My
like Equal Rights a lot, and I wouldn't have read 40 books like um Color of Magic.
yeah.
you know
Yeah.
um
I agree.
but
I agree.
I'm glad I'm glad they exist now. I still have not read every Discworld novel. I
I
think
haven't either.
the last time I checked I've read like 35 of them or something, and then I just kind of slowly get to them. um
Which one's your least favorite?
um
Is it Pyramids? Because Pyramids is terrible.
I don't love Pyramids, though. I think that the silent P joke is funny. Like I there are a few times like I find that one funny. um I don't love Moving Pictures.
Oh, Moving Pictures is terrible. That's a good
Yeah.
choice. That's so
And
it's so
that's
bad.
one of those first ones I read where I thought, "Oh wow, Pratchett sometimes um is like he kind of just like is writing these books hoping all the threads will come together in some way that's like
And it just didn't happen
compelling,
in the
and it
pictures.
just didn't. It
Yeah.
just didn't, and so there's just nothing to do. And
Yeah.
he wasn't the type of guy, I guess, who would just go back and like rewrite the book or something.
Mhm.
He's writing 40 books, and
Yeah.
so probably moving pictures because I felt like the most disappointed by that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't love the Witches subseries either. I love Weird Sisters because I was, just theater and stuff. I find it really funny. But like, I don't like Witches Abroad really all that much. I don't really love Lords and Ladies. I like Carpe Jugulum and Equal Rights, but I don't love all the books. And the Death Book's the same thing. Like, I don't like Thief of Time at all, but Hogfather is one of my favorites. Is the first one I read, and that's what got me into Discworld. I was like, what? What is this? Like one of my friends in high school recommended me. And I was like, what is this? And Discworld, like I've said on my channel before, like Discworld had such a profound formative effect on the stuff that I find funny, because I think the way Pratchett plays with the English language it's just like I don't know anyone else who does that and who does it the way he does, and with the skill level that he does it with. And so I just have glommed onto that, and that it's just affected the kind of stuff that I thought is hilarious, because some of it is super clever, some of it's wordplay, and then some of it is just dumb dad jokes, like the people who in the riot robbed the musical instrument store that are called looters. And it's,
Yeah.
it's just dumb. Like, that's just
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah.
But I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. Did you like Eric?
No, I hate Eric.
Yeah, I
I
don't
hate
like Eric
Eric.
either.
The
Yeah.
problem is I don't like Rincewind. What here is every Rincewind book. Run. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So
That's
I
it.
think that's why when I said the first two books are Rincewind kind of at his best,
Yeah.
because there's so much wackiness going on, and there are like enough characters, like Cohen the barbarian,
Yeah.
like like that. I think he's like very fun as like a character, and so Rincewind gets to just be like the comedic relief there. But when Rincewind actually has to carry the story,
Mhm.
it's just not. It's just
Oh,
not solid.
I agree. And Brian, I said the same thing when I read Midnight Tides, that the T-hole and bug dialogue sounds like Pratchett. And when I said that, someone got mad at me and said, "Oh yeah, because Pratchett wasn't influenced by other British authors." And I'm like, dude, I'm not insulting Erickson. Like, I don't I don't understand what happened. But I agree. I like the Wizards. Like, I like Ridcully and the Bursar and
Yeah.
Ponder Stibbons, who's the only, like, have you read Unseen Academicals? I have not actually gotten to that one yet.
I haven't.
So,
No.
okay.
No.
I think they form a soccer team. I
Oh,
think
okay.
someone could.
That sounds like a good premise. I do like the stuff in the universe. I often like it when the wizards in the university are just like a side plot that's going to happen because
And
they're going to interject some stupidity,
like in Reaper Man.
like in Reaper Man. Yeah. So when they're just like kind of adding some weirdness, um, in Hogfather, like I think that they're a great sort of
Yes.
side plot in Hogfather, because like they're cooking up like the dumbest gods because like they're idiots.
Yeah, the Veruca gnome, the
Yeah,
little wart gnome.
exactly. So it's like those sorts of things I think are where they're kind of at their best. Um, yeah, but I mean in general, if you ask me like, okay, what Discworld novels are we gonna keep if we have to get rid of all of them except one series? It's just hands down, it's the City Watch
I agree.
is
I
what we're
agree.
gonna keep.
There are people who
Um,
don't agree with this somehow, but I mean,
uh,
I'm with you.
I don't think those people deserve to live. Sorry, that's a little more extreme than we thought. But
Oh my god! Whoa! All right, Jared dropping some like verbal like H bombs over here. I'm tempted to agree with you. The watch books are something. They are something else. And
mhm.
when we talk about Pratchett being funny, one of the reasons a lot of people, like, they'll read a Pratchett and they'll be like, "Yeah, I just didn't think it was that funny." And it's like, I understand that, because I think some people like go into it expecting it to be like funnier than it is. Like, I think Guards is the funniest of the watch books, and
Yeah,
they all have humor, but I don't consider like Men at Arms, Feet of Clay, Night Watch a funny book first.
No. Jingo is about the horrors of war.
Yeah.
And more and more of, I mean, and then Pratchett became it really is in the City Watch books that he is really focusing on prejudice. And that's a huge theme throughout all the City Watch books,
Mm-hmm.
but it becomes stronger at like the later you go. And the City Watch books are places where you kind of feel like you are having Pratchett kind of express maybe his own views of the world a little bit more,
Yeah.
because one of the things that comes up over and over again is that Vimes, he always says like Vimes is a copper, right? It's like and he feels kind of obligated by this. And maybe sometimes he's got to be rough around the edges, but he's doing it because he believes, and that's why he's willing to arrest the patrician. That's why he's willing to do whatever it takes and to get on the wrong side of the establishment. And it's why he feels weird about parading in like a dress uniform or having power. Um, as Vimes is becoming uncomfortable with being elevated to nobility. Pratchett becomes Sir Terry Pratchett.
Oh yeah.
Like he's this jokester who eventually is knighted.
Mm-hmm.
He is wrestling with like sort of like what do I get, like I'm just like a working class guy, right? And I have always had it rough, and so that's why it's okay for me to kind of like throw some elbows. But deep down, it's because Vimes is motivated for the good. Like Vimes is, uh, and that's why I love when Vimes is a side character in a novel too. When you just get, because you can kind of, with him in particular, you can almost piece together what the internal logic is.
Yeah.
And so when he's being really rude to someone, where it sounds really rude in
Mm-hmm.
like another book because he's just a side character and we can't hear his thoughts, actually he's put a lot of thought behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Where with the patrician, it's a little more flat. Though the patrician's always fun.
I love the patrician also.
Have you read what Pratchett says about the fact that in the first like novel the patrician's fat, and then later on he's very skinny?
Hold on, he's fat in the first book?
Yeah, he's fat in the first book.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and I think actually it might be in a footnote or it's like in an interview or something that he wrote that Pratchett basically just says, it's possible for Patricia, like, for people to like lose large amounts of weight, and it's also possible. So I think it might be a footnote in one of the books. I'll have to find it.
Okay. Send it
It's
to me.
it's possible for people to lose a large amount of weight and not remark on it. It's also possible for authors to forget the characters they've written.
Is that in Guards, or is it mentioned in a different book that the patrician's in first? Because I don't think he's fat in
I think it's
Guards.
no, I think it's like he's mentioned. I think he's mentioned earlier than
Yeah,
that,
because
like
there's 7
than
books
Guards.
prior. So
Yeah,
surely
I think
okay.
he's mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Okay,
So
then that's
someone look
probably
this
why.
up. Pratchett, patrician, fat.
Fat. So
It's
I have Vimes has been, I don't know, my spirit animal since I first read Guards and Men at Arms and Feet of Clay. And I don't think Night Watch was out when I first read all of those. I'd have to look up when Night Watch came out. And it's exactly like you said. Like Vimes, we know that Vimes, no matter his, the fact that he's rough around the edges and that he's gruff and often blunt, and he's spiky and abrasive in a lot of ways. But
mhm.
Vimes is always doing the right thing. Like Vimes is always Vimes is about justice. Like, why do we have these rules? And everyone has to be subject to them. Like, he is not going to tolerate these. And this is why I love that Vetinari uses him to stir up the aristocracy that would normally be getting into trouble, but they're too busy focusing on Vimes's foibles. But there's always a quote of Vimes in every book, and in Jingo, it's there must be a policeman for kings. Like Vimes is 100% policeman. Like he is a copper. Like you said, like he is, like no part of him is not copper, and he can't grasp the idea that some people, like the law shouldn't have to apply to some people, right? Like that some people are, well, they're better than other people. And it's like in Feet of Clay, when Vimes is Carrot is confronting some people, and they're like, and this woman, like, and her daughter were killed by your thing, and they say, were they important? And Carrot's like, oh no, no. Like I was feeling bad for you, but you just need to be grateful that Commander Vimes didn't hear you say that, because that's because he comes from the shades, the part of Ankh-Morpork that nobody cares about, and people get scorched by the dragon, and no one even cares or knows, because it's the shades. It's where people stay away from. So he had that, grew up with his I guess single mom and in poverty, and then he cannot tolerate the fact that these people that he answers to think so little of their fellow citizens, simply because they lack the name or the status that
exactly.
they lack. And we need Sam Vimes. Like, we need Sam Vimes now, because he's also incorruptible. Like, you can't corrupt Vimes, because he always knows the right thing to do. In fact, trying to corrupt him just makes him angry.
Yeah. It's actually really good if you try to corrupt him, because then he knows that you're one of the guys he has to look out for.
Exactly. Congratulations. He may not have been suspicious of you before. Now he definitely is.
Yeah. All right, Alan, let me tell you this. I found this Reddit post that's about the fat patrician, because it's from 7 years ago, and I guess some of the early books have a fat patrician, and then this is what happened when Pratchett was asked about it. I'm pretty certain that the same patrician was in all the books. Let's look at it like this. Some guilds are very old, the beggars and the assassins. Vetinari merely encouraged them and helped thieves hitherto to loose association of gangs to form their own guild. He's clearly lost weight and got more austere. It must be the pressure. As for racehorses, Zoan, Vetinari is not the first patrician, and no doubt the earlier ones, like Lord Snapcase, were often crazed, greedy, and inquisitive, so he has inherited all sorts of things, but he doesn't change anything without a reason. And then some people got mad at him, like on the fan site, that he was saying that it was the same patrician, because the patrician's a title, so it could have been someone else. And then that's when Pratchett responds with, how about maybe he was Vetinari, or maybe he was written by a more stupid writer.
I personally love the fact that they're getting mad at Pratchett about his own character.
Yeah.
Like, I love when that happens. Hey,
and because it's like Redditors coming up with like theories, they're like, actually, the Thief of Time opens up the possibility that there's a fracture in history, and there are now two trousers of time. One of them is a fat, and we're actually reading two histories in Discworld. And Pratchett's response is, no, I just basically, he says that I think for about like 6 or 7 books, he just didn't have a clear picture of what the like the gods were going to be way more involved early on in Discworld. Like, they're just like hanging out, and like they're actively participating in affairs. The counterweight continent basically just disappears completely. So there's just so much stuff that he just kind of throws out early on, as he really only cares about like 2 or 3 cities and like a mountain range. That ends up being
the Ram Tops, Ankh-Morpork, and what
like Stolat kind of matters.
Stolat in Mort. Where's Granny? Granny and them are over. They're near Lanker somewhere.
Yeah. And then they have to, and then wherever the werewolves are from later on.
Uberwald.
Yeah. So that's all that really ends up mattering for them. And clearly, actually, he only cares about Ankh-Morpork. Like, that's actually the place, because it's London, or like, basically.
For sure. Everything.
Why does he name it Ankh-Morpork? Because Morpork is the name of an owl. Like, there's an owl species named Morpork. Yeah.
Isn't there an owl on the coat of arms?
I think so. So I thought that was the first half. I don't know why he has the Ankh there, but
because it's the river Ankh or river Ankh.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know why he named
I've
the
always
river
said Ankh-Morpork. Yeah,
me too.
Did you know that the clowns that appear
in
Going Post, is it in Going Postal?
I thought they're in Men at Arms first.
Are they in Men at Arms? Okay, but like, there's that whole thing of them having to paint their face on an egg.
That's real. I've talked about that on the channel.
Yeah, that's real.
Jared, every May, I go with my buddy who was the director at the head of the theater department at our community college, and a prison corrections officer who is a former clown, and we go and judge the Shriners clown competition.
Nice.
And that is where I learned it. Like, he literally told me about that. There's a place, it's in one of them, it's in the Midwest somewhere, where they store their egg faces, and you cannot, your face paint cannot be like anybody else's, and they paint it on an egg and they put it in the museum. And he said his is in there, and it's crazy. And the first time I went, there were like 20 clowns. Now we go and there are like 5, because apparently there was a schism among the Shriner clown community, and so the ones in Tennessee won't come down here anymore for some.
Wow.
But it's crazy. It's crazy. I know that's real.
A clown schism would be great too. That should have been that would be a Discworld novel.
It would. A clown. I know.
Yeah.
So hold on, let me catch up with this.
John, I think you were asking where to start for Discworld.
Oh, see, someone who didn't like color magic.
Yeah. Just get guards then, and see if you like it. Guards. If you don't like guards, I just don't think that the series is for you.
I agree.
It's not the best of the series, but it's like, if you don't like it now, you're not going to like it later, probably. Yeah.
I think guards is so funny. I laughed so hard at the elucidated brethren of the Ebon Knight, and they're little petty complaints that their brother Fingers is being oppressed because his landlord makes him pay rent on time or whatever. I think I love the way that Pratchett frames these social issues. In the frame of this top novel, I guess. And I know they start as like, the first 3 especially are pretty, Vimes is on the case. It changed a little bit with Jingo, where it becomes a much more like multinational thing. And then Nightwatch is completely, Uberwald is slightly different, but Nightwatch is a completely different thing.
Yeah. Nightwatch is basically Les Mis, right?
Yeah. With the orchids and everything. And I also think it does a really good job of showing, some humanity of the patrician, because even he wears the lilac thing, because he was there, as a student of the Assassin's Guild, right? I think. I don't know.
I think Brian just mentioned the it's the Sam Vimes, like Boots economic theory or whatever.
Yes. The Sam
Vimes, like one of those like bits of wisdom that once you hear it, you're like, yeah, that's exactly it. Like, you see it all over the place, and he just elucidates it in this perfect way. Yeah.
My wife Christine, I think she's brought up the Jingo, but she referenced it just the other day. We were talking about, we bought something that was, I don't know, I forget. I think we were talking about buying a vacuum, because my vacuum that's like 14 years old.
You should buy a nice vacuum.
Yeah.
The moment you can afford it, you should buy a nice vacuum.
Yeah. This last one.
You know what else you should buy you know what else you should spend money on?
What?
And the amount of money is very small here. You should buy a nice can opener. This is a little bit of advice I have for anyone in the chat.
What?
This is something I talk about quite a lot. Those like cheap can openers that you can buy that are like $3 or something. They're like flimsy and metal. They break every 6 months, right? I bought like a $20 can opener. It feels hefty. It's not electric. You don't need an electric one. That's for people who don't want to mess up their nails or something like this. We're getting tough in this kitchen.
Are you hearing this, Christina?
You want to get one of the nicer ones, but it's like $20-$25. Buy that can opener, because I've had it now for like 7 years. So buy the nice can opener, because you realize I was like, I am going to, if I took all the money I was going to spend on can openers across the timeline of my life, I'd be able to send some kid to college.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to buy the nice can opener now, and it's made it across country moves as well.
Yeah, my vacuum cleaner lasted for like 15 years, and that was after I inherited it from my grandma. Like, it was a hefty vacuum, and now it's
had good taste in vacuums then.
And now it's finally dead, and we were talking about getting a new one. And so I was like vacuums are expensive, but then we're like, well, do we want to buy another vacuum again in a year? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For those of you
Just
guys
like
who don't know what that is, what the Vimes economy of boots monetary theory or whatever is, it says that poor people spend more money than rich people do because the stuff they have to buy, even though it's cheaper, breaks, and so they have to replace it more often. And it's about Vimes buying. If you can afford a really good pair of boots, you don't have to replace it as often. But if you buy a crap pair of boots, then you end up having to replace it, every 6 months or whatever. And so in the long run, you end up spending more money. It's like when you pay for something monthly instead of just paying for it up front for a year or whatever.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, someone asked me about how much money I spend on boots. The answer to that is I have one pair of boots, and they're a pair of I got them from LL Bean. But yeah, probably spend like you probably spend like I spent like $200 on them or something like this. But they show like no signs of wearing out, right? And like there's much more expensive boots than that. You obviously do not need to go that high. It's like this for a lot of things. If you can just get to that like sort of premium tier, if you can
Yeah.
do that, you're gonna save money in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
So I and John also mentioned not going cheap on your underwear. I'm a believer in that, but you can like get away with it a little bit more with cheap
Yeah.
underwear. But once you can, it's nice to have good stuff.
It's the same thing with my shoes and jeans too. Like I used to buy, like when I was really poor, I bought cheap jeans and cheap shoes, and they just tear up. And now the shoes that I buy are, like you said, they're like low tier premium or whatever. Like you're past
Yeah.
the crap version up to the premium tier, but certainly not. I don't wear $2,000 shoes, no. But
Exactly.
I wear the same pair of loafers every day, and I'm in the third year of this particular pair, and but when I got a cheaper one, 6 months, the heel was literally falling off.
I wear pretty much exclusively a pair of Birkenstock Boston's, the clogs, not the sandals. I don't want people seeing my toes. I'm a grown man.
You could wear
And
socks.
I do wear socks with them actually a lot here because I think that I like the look. But anyway, like they're a little expensive. But again, I've had them for years at this point, and like they'll keep going strong for like another 5 years. Just I'm just you guys are getting really good. I usually charge for this kind of stuff, guys.
What, this advice?
This kind of deep thinking about normal life.
Are you a life coach, which is a fake job?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not a life coach. I do occasionally get asked if I will life coach for people. I'll get an email or something, and I always say no. But it is a thing people desire.
But why, Jared? Like, in my experience, life coaches say things that people already know or already should know.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? One is like the stuff that I would feel okay saying is stuff that anybody would be able to kind of intuit eventually, because I am no more insightful about like your deep personal needs, whereas like I feel okay, um, just talking about like you should buy decent shoes or something like that, um, because that's just like that's the universal human condition. I I was just asked how my feet smell. I'm not going to answer that question. I feel that feels oddly personal.
So okay, so what they're asking, because on my most a recent stream of mine, I was talking about virtue and the lack of virtue in just leadership and at the top of anything. Like no one cares about being. And so big long thing about virtue, and the stream ended somehow with me making Christina confirm that I wear shoes all the time and socks, but my feet do not smell. Like they don't. Like it is my shoes and they are odorless. And so to prove it, I walked over and I like had Christina smell them and I smelled them. And so that's what they're referencing. So I think they're asking if your feet stink.
I see. You'd have to ask my wife, I guess. I'd have to go and ask her opinion or something, but I don't think she would do it. So yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I was saying that my conclusion was the odor of your feet is directly proportionate to your lack of virtue. So that's why they're asking. That's right.
I see. I keep noticing this like goblin-like creature jumping in the background.
It's Gus.
Or like
It's Gus.
okay.
It's my cat. I don't know what he's doing, but I keep seeing it also. I don't know what he's doing. I think one of his brothers, I think the gray one right there, is chasing. Oh, No, it's not Gus. It's Spurgeon who's trying to catch a fly. That fly that I mentioned that's in the house.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Is that named after Charles Spurgeon?
he is named after
Yeah,
Charles
well,
Spurgeon.
yeah.
Wow, no one ever knows who Spurgeon's named after. Nice.
My two cats are named Carl and Bark. Bark because my wife thought it would be funny to name a and Carl because if you put them together, it sounds like the
Like
Swiss thinker Karl Barth.
Karl Barth.
So
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
so
We have Spurgeon, and then I have Agesilaus II, Spartan
wow,
king,
okay,
and Tiberius Claudius Nero Germanicus, Emperor of Rome. But
nice.
Christina
I
makes me spell it Clawdius.
oh okay. I have a good friend of mine had a kid's about a year old now, and he named his son Augustus, and he goes by Gus,
That's
um, which I think is a good name.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
When we were considering naming this second child, we had considered Augustus, but one, Christina's cousin has a dog named Augustus. But I mean, dogs don't live forever. But two, we have a
yeah,
cat named Gus, and we would
yeah. That's
probably
hard.
almost
Yeah.
certainly call him Gus. So
At one point, I was pushing for Augustine, and just because I wanted to name the call a kid Augie, I
mhm.
thought that would be a fun name. But yeah, but we don't lose, we don't win every fight. So
Have you read a lot of Augustine?
I've read a lot of Augustine. Yeah,
Do you enjoy Augustine?
I like the Confessions a good bit.
Not
City of God.
Deus Civitatis. Yeah.
No, or not nearly as much. Also, one of my first philosophy classes, I read De Magistro. So I like that. But but Augie is I think a fun name for a kid, but it was not the one. I did not win that fight. Plus, I'm not having a son, so it doesn't matter.
So you can't go with Augustine. Many
Yeah,
people probably think that's a girl name.
yeah, or Augustina, I
There you
guess you
go,
could have gone with.
Augustina. Just yeah, you
Yeah,
know.
but no. We my wife and I settled on names, so I think I can't. We're far enough along. We kind of know what the daughter will be named, and so we can't. I can't go back. If I can say, "Hey, what about this name?" She'd look at me like daggers in her
Yeah, we had the
eyes, like, "No,
same.
we have decided."
Yeah, we have the
Yeah.
same stuff going on. I agree. Oh my gosh, Augie, have you read Three Body Problem? And it's
I have read the whole series. Yeah, I have not watched the show though.
Evie. Yeah, apparently their baby's due in a similar time as
Yeah, yeah, we
us.
are expecting a little girl in September. So thank you. Her name
Oh yeah,
is her name is Alethea, the Greek word for truth.
that is an excellent name.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Christina would not go for Archimedes with Atticus. She would not. She wouldn't do it. She wouldn't
That's
do it.
so good though, because then you could call him Archie.
She did not want Archimedes.
I'm a big believer in like mostly thinking about your kid's nickname.
Yeah.
Like my son's name is Theodore, but we have never called him Theodore. So we call him Teddy. We've called him Teddy since like the moment he was born.
Jared, my second son due in August is going to be named Theodore. I'm,
Yes.
I'm not even
Nice.
kidding.
Nice.
Christina. Okay. She said, I heard.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Fantastic. It's a good name. I'm a big fan.
I
Are you gonna
agree.
Are you gonna call him Theodore? Are you gonna call him Teddy? Gonna call him Theo? Have you thought about?
Christina's going to,
Everyone wants to call him Theo.
I know. Christina's
Everyone
going to
wants
do
to call
Theo.
these kids Theo. Mm,
Christina's with Theo.
I don't.
My dad and stepmom want to call him Teddy.
Yeah.
I am going to call him Theodore, and that's going to be his name. His name will be Theodore. I actually told Christina what I said I was going to call him yesterday. Theodosius the Great, something like that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I tried when we found out we were having a girl. I was like, oh, we can just name her Theodora.
Yeah.
And then we could just but
yeah, why not?
that didn't work. I also thought it would be funny for the kid's room, if he's named Theodore, to put the word Theo on his door. So
Yeah.
it would be the Theodore.
Oh my gosh. That's okay. So that appears in a Pratchett footnote, like asterisk down in the footnote. That's amazing. I love it. Christina, did you hear what we have to do? We have to put the name Theo on his door. Because then it's the Theodore. My wife liked that. She laughed.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm glad. So with Alethea, we'll probably end up calling her Thea a lot, or Allie or something. Probably Thea, but just because
Cool.
kids don't want to say their full names all the time. But I was thinking when we were naming Theodore, it's like I tell everybody he's named after Fyodor Dostoevsky and Teddy Roosevelt, and so he can choose to be called Theodore or Teddy. Those are his options.
Right on.
But the amount of people who will presume, just so you know, the gall of strangers, Alan, they will come and they'll say, "What's his name?" And you'll say Theodore, and they'll say, "Oh, Theo." They'll just switch to a nickname. And I have friends who know that I call him Teddy. They've never heard me say Theodore. They have never heard me say Theo, and they will say,
I call him Theo.
"How's Theo doing?" And it's like, you guys can't will this into existence. This is my child. Okay, I'm not trying to get all like parents' rights here. I'm not about to like give a disquisition on the rights of fathers or something. But the one thing I insist on is that I gave this kid a name, and when he's old enough to make a choice for himself, one day he's gonna decide I actually wanted to be named Maximus because I who knows. But like, fine, we'll humor him for a while.
Yeah.
But for now, his name is Teddy because that is what I say. I say this on, and so it just makes me mad, Alan. It just makes me really
You've given
upset.
all of our viewers ammunition against you now, though, because just like Jimmy and Kev will no longer, they will not spell my name correctly, even though they know how to spell my name. They will not say, "Hey, Alan." It's always, "Hey, Alan." Always. Everyone's always going to ask you how Theo's doing.
I went to a coffee shop today, and someone asked for my name for my order, which was insane because I ordered was a cold brew. Like, you do not need you're just gonna fill it up and hand it to me. You do not need. But I said Jared, and they said with 2 R's, and when choosing, you go with the simpler version. This
Jared. Yeah.
like we're not throwing in extra R's. You don't ask me if there's 2 J's, and then the second part was just like, but also this interaction is pointless because even if you put the 2 R's, again, you're gonna all you're gonna do is fill up the cold brew and hand it to me. But even if you got 2 R's, I wouldn't think, oh, that must be, oh, that's the South Austin Jared. That's no. This is.
I knew a guy who spelled it Jarrod. He spelled it Jarrod, which is ridiculous.
They exist. I don't know, man. This John Griffith says that close family calls him Johnny, rude strangers call him Jonathan. You know what's crazy? Jonathan and John come from different roots. They're different names.
Are they really? Oh,
so they're not related.
So one is
like John.
Yeah, one is Johannes,
and
right?
Yeah. Like one is like the Hebrew like Jonathan or whatever, right? And I think John's like something else. And then it's just like when then Jonathan got shortened to John, but that would be Jon. So I don't. Yeah, going from John with an H to Jonathan. This is wild.
Yeah,
I just think that people shouldn't presume. If I say this is my name, just say it. Right?
I agree. I have only a couple times in my life. I have 2 people in my life who call me Al. Like, they call me Al. I don't like being called Al.
It's like a Paul Simon song.
I love the Paul Simon song, but I do not say it to people. I do not sing that song to people. So I have a couple.
You should call me. You should call them Betty.
And then Betty, if you call one of them's a girl, so I could call the girl Betty.
Yeah.
But like every now and then someone tries to call me Al. It's worse when they find out my first name is James, because then everyone assumes that, oh, is it Jim or Jimmy? It's like, it's neither. Yeah. It's Alan, actually. So please don't call me either one of those. We got Johnny from Talking Stories, Johnny Minton over here.
Yeah, family's different because family is like, that's the socially approved area where like of people who are allowed to presume on you,
Yeah.
right? Like they are allowed to make up, they are just allowed to assume things about you, or to make choices for you. It's the way, it's where you learn to like deal with it or something, so you're not like going postal every time someone asks you a dumb question when you're getting coffee. But it's when strangers do it. I was on this YouTuber's channel. His name's James Nuts, and I didn't have anywhere I was going with that. I just
We
really wanted to call
look,
Jimmy James Nuts.
what we presume. Do you really go by Jim on the golf course? That is
Jim
so.
Jim is like such a good golf name
It
compared to
is.
Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy is a caddy. Jim plays golf. James owns the course.
Are we diving into the works of who is Urawasa? I don't know who that is, so probably not. I'm showing my ignorance. It's going to be something. Oh, he wrote. It's the monster guy. Okay, it's the manga artist who wrote Monster.
I see.
Have you read? Are you on the booktuber manga trend? Do you read any manga?
I read a little bit of One Piece. I'm nowhere close to caught up, and I have read and enjoyed Attack on Titan. I just love mass murder.
Have you finished Attack on Titan?
Yeah, that's the part I'm referring to, like the very end of it. So I like Attack on Titan. I was meaning to read Berserk because I had this idea of doing like a video about it, like the philosophy of Berserk. But like the problem is like I have to really like a manga or something to like keep reading it. I'm not just gonna kind of read it for the sake of content. Here is a thing about me, Alan, that I'd be a lot richer if I could do this. I can't read something for content. If I can't read something to make something about it. I am utterly incapable.
Good for you.
I've sometimes tried to do it, and I'm sitting at my desk pondering the many ways in that room that I could end my own life, basically, instead of reading just another page of this thing. And so I have to. Yeah. See, this is why. Thank you, Anita, saying I'm Alan with a calmer tone. I appreciate this because this is why I wanted to talk to Alan, because I actually felt Alan and I had something in common for a long time. And on my own channel, I don't like let this side come out.
Good.
I'm just the calm, reasonable.
I will be your outlet anytime. You can come on here and rant like in a more free manner.
Yeah.
You're the philosophy guy.
Can you vamp for like 3 minutes while I run and grab another beer?
I can always vamp.
Okay, you get vamping, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm just gonna hit these, make fun of someone saying something in the comments. Jared has good opinions in here about, especially about people who don't like the watch books. Okay. So how large do you think the crossover audience is between Jared's channel and mine? How large do you think that crossover audience is? People who listen to him talk, academically about why aren't people reading anymore? You know what I want to go? You know who I want to go listen to? I want to go listen to that dude talk about how feet don't smell. Or, I want to go listen to that guy rant about how he hates education, or, children don't listen to anything. I don't think there's a ton of, it's like two people and they're all here for real. No, vamping is just, what vamping is, it's just wasting time. I just don't. Jared has inspired me to try to read more philosophy, but I'm not going to read? I'm not going to read Marcus Aurelius because I don't like Marcus Aurelius. I don't like Marcus Aurelius as an emperor. I think Marcus Aurelius here. Let me explain to you guys, just in case you've forgotten. Marcus Aurelius should be reviled. I do not know why. Why do you think? Why don't I think people are reading more? I don't. It's because they're stupid and can't read. Is the answer. My feet literally don't smell, John. Like on the end of my last stream, we proved it. I had both Christina and myself take huge whiffs of my shoes. It is the oddest thing because I wear shoes and socks all the time, and yet my feet do not sweat and my shoes and my feet do not, they have no odor. And we do not understand it. We do not understand it at all. Yes, John, it's because people are fools. Marcus Aurelius is a stain because after stupid Domitian dies from being a big crybaby, the Senate chooses their next emperor, and it's some old unproblematic dude named Nerva, and he's this old senator in his 60s, and all he does is make some laws, super calm, super non-problematic, doesn't try to expand anything, doesn't like engage in a whole bunch of hedonism, and he establishes this line of succession where he's like, you know who I think how we should do this? It was a disaster going from Vespasian to Titus to Domitian. And then we had, the Julio Claudians. What if we just picked the best person? Like, what if we chose someone and brought them up, teaching them how to do this job so it passed on to someone good? And so he's called the first of the 5 good emperors. Now, note there are only 5 because it ends with Marcus flipping Aurelius. And so everyone's obsession with Marcus Aurelius is ridiculous because rather than doing the same thing that his 4 predecessors did, he instead gave it to his idiot son Commodus, who was in no way capable of taking over the Roman Empire. And that's really where it broke, and it never recovered. It never recovered from Commodus being completely unprepared to assume the role. He did not have the character, he did not have the temperament, and he did not have the know-how to take over from Marcus Aurelius. And Marcus Aurelius was just so, I don't know, like just so overcome with filial devotion that he just didn't follow the pattern that it worked. It worked from Nerva to Trajan to Hadrian to Lucius Verus or Antoninus Pius to Marcus Aurelius. It worked, and Marcus Aurelius broke it. And so that is why I think Marcus Aurelius should be reviled, and also because the meditations are not good. Read Seneca. If you care about Stoicism, go read some Seneca the Younger. Read something that isn't Marcus
I
Aurelius.
do think reading Seneca is better. You should read Seneca. You should read Musonius Rufus. He's my favorite Stoic, and that's not just Musonius Rufus, and that's not just me being like a contrarian or something. He's just good.
Gaius Musonius Rufus.
Yeah, Gaius Musonius Rufus. We don't have a lot of his stuff, but it's good.
No,
he believes that women should be given the same education as men, which is actually a pretty forward-thinking idea.
Socrates also thought that women should be, educated and debated and listened to.
Socrates says that in the guardians in the ideal city would be men and women. The only difference is like the male guardians would lift heavier things. Like he's like that's the only thing that would be different. So.
Yeah. Okay. So none of that happened. That's not accurate. That's not history accurate. That's not accurate history. Musonius, I'd never heard of Musonius Rufus in GL.
No, he's lesser known. He was, I believe, the teacher of Epictetus, though. So
no, now I do know Epictetus.
Yeah.
Are you an Epictetus fan?
Yeah. I mean, I think Marcus Aurelius is kind of like my least favorite of the popular Stoics, just because he's like so unsystematic and stuff. I've talked about him more though, just because everybody knows him. I'll be honest though, like in the book I'm writing, I do reference Marcus Aurelius, but it's only very offhandedly, and he's not the focus basically at all. So
as a segue, can you tell us about your book?
Yeah, totally. The book hopefully will come out in 2026 to be published by Portfolio, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House. It happens to be the same it's the same imprint that publishes Ryan Holiday. And it is called, well, we have like 3 different working titles, but I think the one that we're telling people right now is The Philosophical Life. And it's a guide on how to live the life of the mind for autodidacts. So people who don't really care about going to college or went and want to actually educate themselves after paying a lot of money for something that probably wasn't an education. So it's about the philosophy of it, but also, I mean, there's this book called The Intellectual Life by Antonin Sertionge. And it's sort of this like French Dominican friar writing this guide on like how to be a student basically. And it was really impactful for me. But it's like it's super Catholic and it's like a little outdated, and there's lots to say besides that, and there's like a different take on it. I'm essentially writing my own version of that book. And he will talk about sort of the heady conceptual stuff, and then also be like, here's how you should pick what books you read. Here's how you should take notes on what you read. Here's how you should write an essay. And I'm sort of doing all of that together.
That's awesome. And how long did it take you to write that?
Well, it's not done right now. I have about a third of it drafted, but it's very, very heavily outlined.
I gotcha.
So when you sell a nonfiction book, you sell an outline rather than the book itself.
Oh,
As opposed to a novel where you sell the complete work and then you edit it. You really sell an idea when you sell a nonfiction book.
so you're taking time away from your literal valuable writing time to come and check on these smaller channels.
I don't write after dinner. So
Oh,
I get up early and write. I get up about 4 a.m. and write. So
Lord.
and so I won't write tonight anyways. I don't know if I'll get up
Nice.
at 4 a.m. because you're about to get 2 beers, Jared. So you know, yeah,
Hopefully you'll go off on something else
yeah. I've already told people who don't think that the City Watch books are the best that they don't
that
deserve
they
to
don't
live. So
deserve to live. I pulled up Musonius Rufus over here and the titles of his 21 discourses, and here is the should daughters receive the same educations as sons? That's what you're talking about. Women too should study philosophy. That man is born with an inclination towards virtue.
yeah. He
That
also
females
argues
should also study philosophy.
that philosophers should live in caves. So he's much more of that ascetic type of Stoic, as opposed to just being there. He's a little more like a cynic in that regard. And he says that the best thing you should be as a philosopher is to be a farmer, because what can happen is you and your buddies can like go do farming in the fields, and you can talk about philosophy as you're like
While you're farming.
yeah, while you're farming. It's like everything else is too cognitively demanding, basically.
Have you read a new book is about to come out about Diogenes, and
Oh,
I
really?
just I just gotta like I've never requested an arc of like a history book
Yeah,
before,
yeah, yeah.
but I'm like, I talk about Diogenes in class, re Alexander the Great, and I was like, oh, look at that. Have you do we have anything by
We
Diogenes
have
other than just
we
like
have
some stuff he says?
we have fragments or
Gotcha.
something, or like sayings of or something. Uh, I was thinking about doing something about Diogenes at one point, but it was one of those things where I had a video idea where I would wouldn't read Diogenes, and then I couldn't bring myself to read him for the sake of the video, even though I'd
Yeah.
probably like to read him independently. The next big philosophy thing I'm doing as like a big philosophy video is a Nietzsche video, and it's going to be pretty long. I think it's going to be the longest video I've ever made. I think it will at a minimum be 45 minutes, but will probably be over an hour. And I've been thinking about that video for probably 9 months at this point. Um, but I just keep kind of returning to Nietzsche or related works and stuff. But
I am
yeah,
eager for that video to come out because most Nietzsche that has ever been spoken towards me it's always just the same, like some dude bro, like, or faux intellectual, like heard something once about Nietzsche, and like, dude, when you stare at the abyss,
the
the
abyss stares. Yeah,
abyss
yeah, yeah,
stares
yeah.
back, and it's just like, okay, like shut up. And it's all the insufferable nihilists that
Yeah.
that are just
This is an important part of the video, is that Nietzsche's not a nihilist. I feel this very strong. This is a stake in the Nietzsche debates that I feel very strongly about, that Nietzsche's
thank
not a
goodness.
nihilist, and he is kind of actually pushing through nihilism. So
Can you
he
tell
sees
that
the
to the Nietzsche
problem.
fanboys?
Well, that will be in the video, and I'm sure some people will say you're an idiot and you should have your PhD taken away because you believe Nietzsche is not. I mean, I'll sometimes get that. They'll be like, if you say this, you don't deserve to have a PhD. And I'm like, the beauty of having a PhD is it's the one guild in the West that still exists. So I actually know the standards by which I should have a PhD or not, and I've passed them. So like,
Get them.
this is like going to be like a master potter and being like, oh, you use that sort of kiln, you don't deserve to be a potter. But like the guy who's telling you that is like a cooper, and you like go make some barrels. Okay, I'm busy making my, I'm
Out of
busy
all,
making my pots.
who picks Cooper? Who picks a Cooper to to make barrels in that particular analogy.
Well, I was thinking about the fact that like we don't have Cooper is this thing that I think about the name Cooper a lot. I have a friend who has a son named Cooper,
One of
and the
my good
kid seems
students is
fine,
named Cooper.
right? But like we don't name kids Surf. We don't name them Farrier. Like we don't name them Blacksmith. But for some
Christina,
reason
I would like to change Theodore's middle name to Surf. Serf. Okay, she said no.
and Cooper is just one of these things where we've just decided we're just gonna take the name of a trade, and I don't know why, man. It doesn't make any sense to me. If I named my kid Ryder, it would be like I would be mocked, you know. So
you have to hide it by spelling it Ryder.
yeah. It's Ryter, and they're
There
like,
you
ooh,
go.
Ryder, what an interesting name. Do you want to hear the middle name picks for my, as I'm calling my forthcoming daughter?
Let's do it.
So my son has two middle names, and so my daughter will have two middle names as well.
Oh,
And
okay.
and so her name's
See, Christina, it's not uncommon. I suggested this for one of our kids.
yeah, and so her two middle names are, it's gonna be, her full name will be Ursula, or will be Alethea Ursula after Ursula K. Le Guin,
Nice.
Hannah after Hannah Arendt
Dang,
Henderson. So it'll be Alethea
dang.
Ursula Hannah Henderson.
Those are such cool names. Christina, we need to do two middle names.
My son's name is Theodore Alistair Herman Henderson.
I love the name Alistair. I love the
Yeah.
name Alistair.
Yeah.
I'm a
So-
huge fan. Nice. That's
So I feel
awesome.
like I've packed in a lot of value in their names. So if they ever decide they want to be called something else, I'm like, I've given you so many options.
Maximus.
And then if you and then you're like, but I'd really like to be called Maximus. Be like, okay, cool. You will inherit nothing. But but I gave you so many choices. I gave you diminutives, but you know,
in the will, it will read, and Teddy will inherit this unless he has chosen to go by the name Maximus, in which case Alethea gets all of it.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I want to
Is
really,
Alistair for Alistair Crowley? It's certainly not for
no,
Crowley.
it's not. It's kind of inspired by this philosopher who actually died yesterday, named Alistair McIntyre, but it's also not with a T. It's Alasdair, Alistair, or Alistair, right? Like, you know, there. But it's mostly because I really wanted a Scottish name there. Like my dad's middle name is Grady, which is kind of like a kind of remnant of my family's like Scottish roots, and I kind of liked the idea of like packing in like a really Scottish name in the middle. So and that's why like Alistair was there.
So when he goes to Starbucks and orders a cold brew, let's say, is this Alistair with a D? Right?
Yeah. My my wife loves to point out the fact that it's like, um, okay, so we have a half Chinese son who you have now made sure has like all of these names, and we just like couldn't be bothered for like one of them to be Chinese.
Is your wife Chinese?
My wife's Chinese, yeah.
My best friend's wife is also Chinese.
Okay, wow.
Is,
We could be best. You could ditch him, and it turns out I could just slot in very
I
easily.
could. I'm gonna tell Finn. Finn, sorry. Tell Ting Ting. Like I found a new friend with a Chinese wife.
And I can only have one, and yeah. So yeah, but I even asked my wife, I'm like, you know, for our daughter, do you want to make sure that she maybe has like a Chinese name or a middle name or something like
No.
this?
Absolutely not.
And she said no. And
Okay.
the funny part is we came up with like a Chinese name for our son that we would like introduce him as to like her family, and they just like made up a different name. They're like, we don't like that name. And I was like, well, it's not like on a birth certificate. So this is that kind of thing about like families are allowed to presume
Yeah,
on
so I
you.
guess it's fine.
And literally my wife's parents, they just come up with names that are like painfully literal. My wife's name is Mengyu. Okay, it's Mengyu. Mengyu essentially translates to like little rain,
Mhm.
like little rain, because that was what the weather was like. But it's
But
not like a beautiful when she was born, but it's
yeah.
not like a beautiful little rain. Sometimes you say that to people and be like, "Oh, that's nice." It like really the more accurate translation, I guess, is like drizzle. My wife's name is Drizzle,
Do you
and
ever call her Drizzle?
I never call her Drizzle, but it does lead to some funny auto translate things between me and her dad sometimes,
Yeah.
where he like sent me this message that translated as "We will talk when the rain comes," and he meant like "We'll talk when Mongyu is back."
When
So
she gets,
we could like,
oh,
it, and they literally just refer to my son as 6'1", um, and because he was born on June 1st, and they just put 6'1" together, and they say they want him to be 6'1", they want him to be 6 feet tall and one like.
so they use they say the Chinese words for 6 and 1.
Yeah, exactly.
What
And
one
we
is
came
what?
up with like all of these other names. Like Zouyu was going to be one of them, which is this like Chinese mythical and I wanted Chongtian was like another name, which is like kind of similar to Theodore if you like really twist how you translate them and stuff. And they were like, nah, we're just gonna call him 6'1", and they just like came up with that. And so I don't know. My mother-in-law has been living with us for the last 2 months. She's been like spending some time here. It's been nice, but she now just calls him Teddy because she realized he doesn't respond to you know anything else, and he's
She
two.
should call
Like,
him Theo. She should just call him Theo, like in
yeah,
your
yeah,
house.
yeah. Someone calls him in Theo. I was get out. Just get out. There is a door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. I'm not turning the light on as you walk to your car. I
Even if
just
it's your mother-in-law.
even if it's my mother-in-law.
Oh
Gonna
my gosh.
buy her a one-way ticket back to China. Call her that. Like,
Does your wife ever get? Do you ever go back with her? Or does she ever go back to China?
we've gone once, and then after we got married in 2019, and it became a little hard to travel to China for a little while.
Yeah.
And then she got pregnant, and so it's like we haven't been able to like really make it work. That's why
Yeah.
her mom came for a while. Her dad's going to come later this summer to sort of help us prep for the second kid, and also for them to finally meet their grandson. Yeah.
Yeah, when they had Lillian, his in-laws lived with them for like the first 2 years, like down in their basement. Which I mean, you got two more people in a smaller house, but free childcare, right? But they go. His wife and his daughter go back to China for like every summer. They go at the end of June, and she
Okay.
starts school over there, and then transfers over to here like in at the end of August or whatever. And that's the time he can't because he works for the government and
Yeah. Yeah.
he can't turn his laptop on over there. It'll like
Mhm.
self-destruct. Um, so he uses that time to travel. He goes and sees his folks in Texas, and
Yeah.
then he spends like a week and a half
I
here.
think if he tried to turn it on in China, just a man with sunglasses on would appear from the crowd with a
Yes,
hammer.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I get to see him every summer. He comes
Yeah.
here and hangs out with us for a week and a
Yeah.
half.
Okay.
So it's a fun
And
time.
you're in Florida, right?
I am.
Okay.
I My mom used to live in Texas. She used to live in Round Rock, which is near Austin.
It's pretty close to
Um,
me. Yeah.
yeah. So and she lived closer to Austin at one point. My friend and I, same friend, when we were in college, we went and spent some time with my mom's in Austin, and with her, I think it was her boyfriend at the time's like kids, and we all went to like a rave. It's to this day the only rave I have ever been to, and it was in Austin, and everyone
The
kept talking
image
about how weird Austin was.
the image of you at a rave, Alan, is the funniest thing I can imagine right now.
My students will ask me like if I party or whatever, and I'm like, do I
Yeah.
like, guys, do I literally look like I go to the club and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
rave? And I tell them I've been to
Yeah.
one, and they can't believe it either. There's some dude who was hopped up on something. He had like
Hmm.
glow sticks on his arm or whatever, and he was like, don't drop the ball, don't drop the ball, don't drop. And he like tried to pass it, like there was no ball, it was just his
And you,
hands like around
yeah. Yeah.
a ball,
You
and
get to
try
throw it.
and
You're just like standing still.
yeah,
He's
I'm like,
getting
I
mad
have
because
no
you just
idea
dropped the belt.
because I am not someone who.
No, I understand. You're the least guy that I could think about. Like
Thank you. I don't
you
know why my
just
students don't assume that.
you're just a pure. There's no
Yeah,
there's no upbeat there.
it's too
Now,
loud.
Alan, I wanna take a slight turn in this conversation if you're okay with that. Why the hell don't you like the dispossessed?
I was about to ask you about it because it's not good. Like it's not good. Jared,
Let me tell you let me tell you a story, Alan, and then you can try to convince me. Okay. First time I read The Dispossessed, I was in grad school, and I loved it so much that that night I went to a party, as I often did on the weekends. I was much cooler back then, and I got very very drunk. And I called my wife, and she hadn't gone to that party because she had been doing some work for some like coursework stuff. And I just say drunkenly, "You have to read The Dispossessed." And then I like wouldn't hang up until she promised that she would read it. And I love that book so much, and it's my favorite science fiction book. And I read it again this year. I loved it even more this time. And I want to know why you, I don't know, man,
because
aren't good.
no,
Like,
no. Well, listen, that's not true. The Dispossessed. Why is it? The back of the book makes it sound like it's going to be interesting, and then it isn't. Instead, there's this ruddy looking planet where these hippies hang out and complain about having to get sent over here, and Shevik is the most boring person, and then he goes to the new planet, I guess Earth, and is
no,
boring there.
no, it's not Earth. In fact, actually, in fact, read a little more closely, Alan, because the Terrans play a very big role at the end of the book. They are the Earthlings. This is a completely different planet.
Okay.
Eurus is in
Sorry.
fact more beautiful than Earth is.
Okay.
As the Terran ambassador says, we had our own Eden and we destroyed it, but this is even more beautiful than that. That's not a quote. I'm just saying this is basically what she says in the final chapter that's on Eurus.
Sorry.
Anaris is a moon of Eurus.
Sure.
It
But it's
it
ruddy
only
and
has
sandy.
yes, it's sandy. It lacks vegetation. It lacks a lot of life, though it has some fish life.
Sure.
And yeah, and Shevek is
Boring.
a man torn between the demands of his society and himself.
Where is it?
And what he has to eventually realize, the resolution is that actually by being true to himself, he's actually being true to Anaris. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of The Dispossessed.
When is he having this feeling? Is it when he's forcing himself on that one girl at the dinner party? Is
No,
that's
one of the things is like because he temporarily starts to think that maybe the world on Eurus is better. Like he thinks he's going to give in, and one of the things is he becomes a proprietarian, and he becomes a thing who thinks he can just take what he wants, and that's why he assaults the woman, and that's why it's so devastating for him internally. It's why he vomits later. It's like he's rejecting everything that he has previously taken on.
So what you're saying is that I didn't read it right, because it sounds like I didn't. It sounds like I didn't read it right.
I think Alan, you did not read it right.
Are y'all listening? Are y'all listening to this
read
Reddit commenter that just came up came up on my screen to tell me that I didn't read it right? Jared, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Like I agree.
Okay,
Everything you said sounds really good.
Action, you want action every 3 pages? Go read a Sanderson novel.
No, I don't.
Okay, you're gonna have a therapy session, and you're gonna have a battle where nothing ever happens, but you're told it's written well, and you're gonna have another therapy session where you get to process your feelings about it. And you're gonna have another battle where nothing ever happens, and then a god's gonna show up. You're gonna act like it matters, and then we're gonna go, oh my god, that's cool because it's the 17th shard of the blah 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 blah, and then everyone's gonna say, I gotta go update the wiki, because that's why they read those damn books, is because they like to update wikis. It's Wikipedia editors who haven't realized there's real history in the world, and like they have just completely
catching strays, like
sublimated their desires. This is someone who's like, I can't wait to read this for the 7th time so I can really understand the lore when I talk about it on my podcast with my friend.
I hate the podcaster class, but listen, don't accuse me that I got to have action every 3 pages. My favorite author is KJ Parker, where nothing happens for 300 pages. I'm just saying, everything you said sounds really interesting. Why was Le Guin so bad at making it interesting? Because the book that you read sounds really interesting. Why wasn't The Dispossessed interesting?
Alan, I will give you $500 if you read that book again.
Wait, are you being serious?
I will Venmo you $500 the moment you finish the book.
Are you serious? Are you being serious?
I will absolutely do it, because I think I think we're about to. I might have killed Alan. Not totally sure. Okay, no, he's running back. All right, you read that book again. You send me a message on Discord telling me you finished it, and I will Venmo you $500 that hour.
It's happening. Okay, I think this is a scam. Am I gonna have to like buy something for your multi-level marketing scheme first?
No,
Like,
but then after you read it, we will then discuss it to see if you got it this time. Because I think
if
you're
I,
better
if I
than
read
this.
it right,
I think you're better than this.
you know what, Jared? It means a lot that you think that I'm better than my Cro-Magnon opinion that I currently possess about this. Hey,
So, have you read any other Le Guin?
no, and it's not that I'm not going to. I just haven't.
Yeah. I think the word for world is forest. Might be you might just say, oh, well, this is like an eco thing. I'm not sure. I think that the left hand of darkness is almost passe nowadays because like gender stuff has just moved on so much since when she was writing it. But I think it's actually just story wise a better story. I think it's actually probably the best story she tells because it's very much a politics between two nation states, and this guy kind of gets caught up in the middle, while also everyone's like, oh, it's about the sexual differentiation in the species. That's there, but it's not like actually the story. And that part's kind of nice. But also Lathe of Heaven, I think you would dig quite a bit, and that's not set in the heinous cycle. That's kind of that's set on Earth, and you might like that, and it's short too. So if you hate it, you only spent
So the first thing I need to learn is that it's not on Earth. That this does not take place on Earth, and Anaris is a moon. That's the first thing that I got wrong. Eris is not Earth. It is more beautiful than Earth.
No,
And
yes, Urus is more beautiful than Earth, and it's completely. And in fact, the backdrop to the Hainish cycle is that the Haines are basically like the proto-humans who have placed human-like species on a bunch of different planets and all given them slightly different sort of tweaks. In one book, in the Left Hand of Darkness, we're told Terrans have like psychic abilities. They're more empathetic. That never shows up anywhere else. And Ursula K. Le Guin is like, that's who cares, right? Like that was just like a thing I tried for one book. She didn't really care about continuity for that stuff.
yeah,
And like I think actually on Eurus, it's mentioned a lot. Like they're a lot hairier. Like they're really hairy. Like Shevek's really hairy, and I think that they're slightly more simian. They're more ape-like. And then that's how you get the sexual differentiation stuff in the Left Hand of Darkness. Man, I had. I'm really bummed. I had a really funny joke about Brandon Sanderson, and I just lost it. But if I remember it, I'll tell you.
I thought your spiel about if someone doesn't like how slow Dispossessed is, then clearly I must. Oh, it started out as Brandon Sanderson and ended up attacking wiki editors. I'm gonna clip that. Hold on. First of all, Evie. Hold on. Evie. Hold on. Where's Evie? Okay, so as I said the last time when Jimmy tried to pay me to take my shirt off, guys, my dignity is for sale. Like my integrity isn't. You want to pay me to read a book? You can pay me to read a book. That's fine. I'm not going to take your money to like compromise my integrity, people. So how about that one?
The trick is that you want to make sure you're making at least minimum wage when you think about the hours it takes to read a book.
Exactly.
So it's like I'll give you $5 to read all of Stormlight Archive, and you're like, okay, like I'll give you $5 to be stranded on a desert island and build a boat. like who's going to be more enriched by this? Right.
Simon wants to give me $500 to read Left Hand of Darkness. What if I read them both, Simon?
But he says, I think. Is this cumulative, Simon, or is it like if you pay him 500 to see this? Because if so, you haven't made the right offer. You should say 501, right? You should be we should be bidding for Alan's affection and
Guys,
attention.
I found my new career. I'm going to my new side hustle, and I'm going to get into bidding wars about what I should read next. So I'm hoping it's cumulative. Because then I'll read. Guess what? My TBR has just been diverted for Ursula K. Le Guin.
What is Shadow of the Apt? I saw that in your Discord.
Shadow of the Apt is it's Adrian Tchaikovsky's first series.
Okay.
And it's just a series about war, and it's really good. But it has like fun people.
Okay. I've read 2 Tchaikovsky books. I
Are
liked one of them.
Are they both sci-fi?
They're both sci-fi. One of them was Children of Time. Is that what it's called? With the spiders?
Yeah, Children. I haven't read it, but Children of Time.
Okay, yeah. And I liked that. And then I read Service Model, his most recent book. And that was about 100 pages too long. And it was just like one of those, like, why'd you do that to me, brother? You could have written a shorter book and it would have been just as good.
Yeah, I have not.
Why are we always writing such long books?
This is why I stand by. Have you read The Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham?
I have not. No.
It is quite good, but it is the entirety of it's one of my favorite series. It just does stuff that I just haven't seen still in other fantasy books.
Yeah.
It's like these two friends. It charts their friendship over basically like 50 years of their life. But the entire series is shorter than the most recent Stormlight book. The entire quartet, all 4 books, is shorter than, and it's and anybody who's read Long Price Quartet and liked it will tell you that like Daniel Abraham does in 300 pages what, I don't know why everything has to be 800 pages.
I started reading a lot of John le Carré, or like John le Carré, or I don't know what they say in the UK, but like they don't say French, but like spy novels. And the best one I've read so far is The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which is like 250 pages.
Nice.
And there is a full character progression. There is backstory given. There is a plot, and you're like, damn, like that's what a book could be. Like, and so I've been reading a lot more like short books. So today, as I was writing about Borges for a bit. And have you ever read Borges, like Ficciones? Oh my gosh, Alan, it should be on my desk so I could hold it up and seem really cool while I talk about this. But I shouldn't be saying this stuff out loud. It's this collection of stories. It's a short story. He wrote tons of short stories, and he's an Argentinian author, and he's drawing a lot of inspiration from like science fiction and fantasy, but he's clearly very much in that like literary mode. And what he says is in the introduction to the first part of Fictiones, he says it's really tedious to write whole books. So what I'm going to do is write a short story about a book. And sometimes it'll be like a short story of someone discovering the book, and then he'll like describe it. So that way you can just know the good parts.
Nice.
And like all of them are like this.
What's this called?
It's a Ficciones. Borges, Borges. This is very famous, but this is probably the best fiction I've read this year. And it will be really hard to top it. And you should read. You should read it. I think you would dig it. And well, I think anybody would dig it. Honestly, I just
which one? Talan Ukbar Orbis Tertius.
Yeah. So that's a great story there. Library of Babel is great. I like it's like Pierre Menard, author of Don Quixote. And it's a story about a man who decides that he wants to be the author of Don Quixote. So it's not just that he can copy Don Quixote, he has to like get into the mindset and like fully inhabit becoming a person who would write Don Quixote.
What on
earth? It's such good stuff, man. It's such good stuff.
Jared,
but
I
also,
feel like
you could read Ficciones in a day and a half.
I feel like you're recommending me things that I'm gonna hate. Like I feel like you were taking a sadistic streak and recommending things to me that I'm not.
Tell me every book that you like, Alan. Tell me every single book you like.
I don't know. I like Terry Pratchett.
Okay, you like Terry Pratchett. Do you like Douglas Adams?
I less than Terry Pratchett.
Yeah. Do you think that the jokes get a little stale by maybe the second or third book, and that he didn't need to write 5?
I didn't think he needed to write 2.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought Hitchhiker's Guide was really good, and then
I do like the concept of the restaurant at the end of the universe, though.
I mean,
that's
me
a funny
too.
idea.
But the book, you could just write me a couple pages about the restaurant at the end of the universe.
Yeah, when it gets to the point where they are actually capable of flying because they keep forgetting to fall.
Yeah.
Like that. It's like we've we've flown over the shark here.
Hold on, Simon. Simon, that's too much. You're being too generous. Um,
Holy crap! Good for you, Simon. Hey, Simon. Though, hot tip, man. Don't do it via super chats. You should send him. You should ask for a PayPal link or something, because Google's gonna eat that like crazy.
is it really? I
I mean, they're gonna take a fee. They're gonna take like a 30% fee at
I
least.
don't ever get super chats, so
Well, you just did it. Congratulations. You're gonna read the Left Hand of Darkness.
I'm
So,
also gonna read the Dispossessed because
well, I guess so.
making
But you got
guilt.
to do he's already paid half, so I think he
That's
put the
true.
deposit
He takes
down.
precedence. You're
He
right. You're right.
Yeah. I just did like a whole thing with a carpenter here in Austin who's gonna build some bookshelves for me for my house, and he's like, yeah, sometimes I get clients who they give us a deposit and then they just like never follow up. So we just have their stuff in the workshop and it just sits for like 6 months or a year, and then they call and say, hey, can you install it? And we just do. And I was like, that's insane to me. Like, I will be scheduling the moment I can for you to put these bookshelves, because I'm getting some like built-ins in my living
Yeah.
room. And he's like, yeah, like this is totally reasonable, and you will actually be, I have to tell you it'll be 8 weeks, but probably it'll be like 4 weeks or maybe 6 weeks, because these super rich people, they just like forget that they've uh paid us $10,000. I'm not paying anywhere close to that, but like, they forget that they've paid us all this money for all this stuff.
Man, what must that be like to be like, I lost track of 10 grand. Like what must that be like? Simon, but
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
thanks for the 250 spot. No, thank you so much, Simon. Uh, that's I don't know, super kind. Um, yes, name all the books I like. I like KJ Parker. I like Daniel Abraham because I think he writes really good characters and
We,
does different things with stories.
I think you say you like KJ Parker because no one's read him, so you don't have to like back it up.
That's not true. That's
I'm
not
calling
true.
I'm calling I'm calling BS on this. I feel like
In my
KJ Parker
circle, everyone's read KJ Parker. All of my
I feel
friends
like
read.
maybe you made up KJ Parker. I looked on his Wikipedia and it was like 6 lines long. I think you could have written that in an afternoon.
Well, you know
I already
what?
said you look like a Wikipedia editor.
Look, that's why I read his books 7 times so I could edit the wiki. And that's why I try to get arcs so I can edit the wiki before the book comes out because no one else is going to do it. I don't even think his wife reads his books, but like I do. I I do like KJ Parker. I'll defend it now. Like, what do you need to know?
Well, I don't know. I mean, frankly, I actually don't care about him. So like that part there, I just wanted to put you on the spot.
It's unkind. Um, what else do I like? I like Adrian Tchaikovsky's fantasy that I've read. Um, I like.
Can I tell you? I was having a conversation with Jimmy earlier today. I talk to Jimmy a little too often, and we were talking about some video. Okay, I won't say who it was, whose video it was, or what the topic was. And he's like, "Did you watch this video?" And my response was, "I didn't, because I assumed that if the books are good, I already know about them, and if I don't know about them, they're not good." And so this is how I feel about KJ Parker. I didn't know about him in advance, so I don't know.
No one knew about him in advance, though. Like
Yeah.
nobody knew about him in advance. I think I discovered him. Like I was at an archaeological dig and I dug up the folding knife, and
Yeah.
I brought it to the British Museum or whatever. See, look, Simon loved folding knife. Thank you, Simon. Look at this.
By the way, that what you just described, that premise
Mhm.
would be a Borges short story. Someone discovers this treasure trove of fantasy
Oh,
novels
really?
and has to construct the
All
life
right.
of
Okay.
an author. They that would be the idea, like
All
the
right. Maybe
kind of
I'll
thing
maybe I'll
Borges
read some of those then, and
would be
not and
inspired.
try not
Yeah,
to hate them. I do. I like Bernard Cornwell. I say I like historical fiction, but I apparently don't because anyone I try to read, I end up not liking, except the Cicero.
you would no. Well, I was gonna say you would like Wolf Hall. What I'm really saying is I like Wolf Hall and I think it's good, and I would like other people to like Wolf Hall.
I have seen one
And
episode of Wolf Hall with Damian Lewis, who I love.
and can we just talk about how much of a disappointment Jimmy is?
Oh
He,
yeah, we need to bring that back. Let's circle it back, guys. Remember, Jimmy says he loves, these. What does he call them? Grandma books, Jared?
he calls them grandma books, but what he means is that is Jimmy's self-effacing way of saying I read real books.
Okay, but
You,
and the
you know, like,
rest of us don't.
and the rest of us. I mean, I do, but the
You
rest of
do,
you
but
don't.
for example, I do not.
Yeah, yeah. And so he's like, oh, they're grandma books, and then we're supposed to be like, oh, that's so funny, Jimmy, you're so funny. You bet you were really funny in the wrestling ring, and then I give him the the best fucking book like that, like he's gonna read this year if he would just finish it. Um,
So, Jared, would I rise above Jimmy in your esteem if I read Wolf Hall?
oh, absolutely. You were
Okay.
saying that you're cheap. You can be bought for apparently $250 through a super chat after Google's fees. I can be bought by if you just read Wolf Hall, and I'd buy Wolf Hall for you. It's 15
I
bucks
own
now.
Wolf Hall. I
Okay,
own Wolf Hall.
read it, man. It's so good. You know, I know Jimmy. You saying you'll finish it. Jimmy's like, oh, I'll finish it. Jimmy has been saying that he'll do a lot of things for a really long time, and I just think, ask Mrs. Nuts, Jimmy does not keep his promises, and this I'm not going to base my happiness on the spurious speculations about Jimmy's future plans.
It's-
It's frankly insulting.
Does, does that does that keep the Jared stock market in flux, being unable to base stability on Jimmy's future plans?
Exactly. I need to think of it as like my happiness levels are like Bitcoin. They're all over the place. He's offering me some alleged stable coin. We all know that those are fake. This is like a real like Jimmy essentially has the reliability of what you might call like a Chumley.
I love Chumley. Wait, hold on.
You send him out to look at a look at a vacant lot and he buys a hot air balloon or something.
You mean Chumley, the Las Vegas entrepreneur?
But imagine Chumley if he could control his own close-up cam. That's essentially Jimmy.
How did we get to Chumley? Oh my gosh. Oh.
I feel like I kind of knew you, Alan, and then I made the Chumley the Las Vegas on that specific joke, and when I see that I was like, oh, okay, cool. So like I want to be friends with Jimmy and with Alan because like
if y'all haven't seen the bit where Conan's talking to what's his name?
I can't remember his name, but he's famous. He was Norm Macdonald's like writing partner on SNL and afterward. Whose name I can't remember though. He wasn't
Jim Downey. Jim Downey.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim Downey. And it's about Epstein.
It is one of the I watched that clip on the regular, and I have Jimmy to thank. Like I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to steal the credit here for having discovered it on my own. Jimmy showed me this clip. If you look up Conan, Jim Downey, Jeff Epstein, and just watch the 2-minute clip, it is
it's perfect. It's the best thing Conan's done probably since he got kicked off the Tonight Show. Sorry, he's funny, but it's been a hard few years.
No. And then, I agree with you, but I'm enraged that he was kicked off the Tonight Show.
Oh yeah. I remember watching like that last week and stuff. That last week of the Tonight Show, by the way, was a great week of television.
Wasting as much of NBC's money,
yeah, exactly. Like destroying cars on the thing, on fire and stuff. Like, oh, it was so good. Yeah. I mean, do you remember what it was like, Alan, to be? Do you remember what it was like to be happy? And by that I mean, like, do you remember what it was like? You're a little bit older than me, but I feel like it was about the right time. Like do you remember when the first Hangover movie came out? Okay, mm-hmm. And everyone, the height of comedy was just repeating lines of the Hangover.
Yeah.
To each other, and that was all you had to do. And it was like that with like Superbad, or like there was like there was like a Will Ferrell era, and then maybe like the Seth Rogen.
Superbad was it was insufferable. How many?
They're so fast. They're the fastest kids in the world, and you would just say that, and like the whole room would die, right? That Jim Downey clip is me getting to relive that. Right?
Yes.
Like I don't want to fully go back to those days, but you could just say it, and I'm just dead.
Those were simpler times, though.
Yes. The New York financier is just the one with the plane. Is just
hold on, Jeff Epstein, the New York financier, because oh my gosh, and the reason it reminds me of Pratchett and the stuff I find funny about Pratchett, because also Conan O'Brien, kicked off the Tonight Show, was one of the other influences on things I found funny. Like it was Pratchett. I watch Conan and the late. It's not the Tonight Show. What comes after Tonight Show? Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Late night.
I
Yeah,
watched every night in college for a decade, 12 years. I watched Conan all the time, and so I was living the Jay Leno Conan drama and him getting kicked off the Tonight Show. And my favorite bit on his Tonight Show was the wax figure of Tom Cruise from like the Great Value brand, Madame Tussauds. Like it was the crap wax museum figures where no one looked like anything they were supposed to. And he like bought the Tom Cruise one and like would shoot out of a cannon and stuff like that. So that stuff amused me. But I agree. I don't think the TBS show was as funny, which makes me sad.
Yeah, it was like Reggie Watts as like as your band was kind of like a funny gimmick or whatever. Or wait, that no, he was just a guest on it. No, Reggie Watts was the band for Comedy Bang Bang when they had their TV show.
He had Max Weinberg before he got to TBS.
Yeah. Okay. So it was like, yeah. I mean, it was fine, but it's also just like a late night show on cable doesn't like totally make on like basic cable for some reason doesn't make sense. Well, no, I take that back because the Daily Show was really funny at one point.
That is the third trifecta of the things I used to watch all the time. Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I watched that earlier than Conan.
I was a huge Colbert fan, and it's really sad actually because I just think Colbert is like now just painfully boring. Like I just don't have any. Like I feel no need to go watch him.
He's on network. That's why I never understood why Conan wanted to go to the Tonight Show because like his unique brand of like being freaking weird was never gonna play like in the Tonight Show.
Early. Yeah. Do you remember they were doing like Leno had that show before him? He had that like that was gonna be
that torched any chance he had to start with.
Yeah, 4 nights a week or whatever, and it was like Leno's variety show, and it was just like Jay Leno can't stay up late anymore. That was the pitch.
Yeah.
Like I know it's like, hey kids, your mom and I are getting a divorce. Don't worry though, I'm gonna bring in a great new mom. She's got a quirky sense of humor, but at bedtime, your mom's gonna come back. They're gonna hate that new mom. They're gonna hate their stepmom, and that's what NBC did to us. That's what and we were ready for the quirky stepmom who we thought we could be friends with or something, but it turned out the advertisers, that cared about it, they weren't ready. They wanted their old mom back.
Yeah, now they have Jimmy Fallon.
They have Jimmy Fallon, who cares? Jimmy Kimmel. Okay, he was on the Man Show. We all like to forget that existed. And it's like, man, has any cast gone more in crazy directions than the Man Show? Because like Jimmy Kimmel and like Adam Carolla, and they've just gone completely different directions.
Isn't Adam Carolla over in the manosphere or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is, that's where the Man Show logically leads.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And yet Jimmy Kimmel, I guess I get it. He hates Matt Damon. We're supposed to laugh at that 10 years later or something. Jimmy Fallon can't do a sketch to save his life, and we're all supposed to just like think it's funny when he giggles. Like I mean, who cares? Like who cares about any of this?
I don't watch talk shows anymore.
Why are we talking about late night talk shows?
I was honestly wondering how we got. Oh, because we talked about Jim Downey and you were talking about Chum Lee. You're talking about Chum Lee. Freaking Chum Lee.
To be fair, I was calling Jimmy the Chum Lee of this.
Jimmy is the Chum Lee. So am I the old man? Are you Corey or Rick?
Does that show have a hot one or like a handsome one? Do they have that character? Because I don't feel like that they did. But if they did,
they are all potato shaped. All of them on there.
It's like a fleshy Mr. If you told ChatGPT make a Mr. Potato Head sort of pale and fleshy, it would be all of them.
Look, best I can do is $20.
Yeah. Did they ever? I feel like that show naturally. 6 seasons in, they'd be like, "Hey guys, we need something new. We have a girl."
And you think they would? Well, they had a couple girls that worked there, and they always ended up having to work with Chumley. And they always just played up how weird they were weirded out by working with Chumley and his loud mouth breathing.
Yeah,
On the
yeah.
show. We're not supposed to take silver without getting authorization. And she's just like, what? Like
That
one
was
girl
really
after
good. That
one.
was a really good Chun Li. That was wow.
Hey,
That was
thanks.
impressive.
I watched a lot of Pawn Stars in
Yeah. Okay.
my day. And it's exactly like you're saying. Send him to look at something. And he first of all gets distracted for 2 hours playing the antique Pac-Man machine they have in their garage, and then buys like a hot air balloon.
Jimmy says that Kelsey was one of those women.
I forgot that Kelsey dated Chumley.
Wow. Yeah. How does it feel, Jimmy, to consistently be second best at everything? to just know everything you do is just a little bit less than what Chumley could do. Jimmy's drying the dishes. Like, that's not how Chumley did it.
What happened in the stream? It's just bad mouthing Jimmy. For once, how does it feel that the turntables have turned, Jimmy? Where normally it's you and whoever you're talking with bashing me. The bashee has become the basher, Jimmy.
This is partly revenge because I feel like I keep making myself available to Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy, I'd love to come back on or something like that. I mean, I don't grovel, let's be clear, but
obviously,
but I make myself available. And he points out that my Chatting with Nuts episodes, especially when you weight them for amount of subscribers I have, do really terribly. They just aren't they aren't a big pool. And he's just like, you're just not a big enough draw. He's like, I can't put you at top of the card. And I'm like, hey, you fail to be on a wrestler. I don't think you're allowed to use that lingo anymore.
Oh my gosh. Well, my small subscriber count, especially when taking subscriber count in, I crush you at Chatting with Nuts, Jared.
That's true. You're astounding on Chatting with Nuts. Like,
It's
how
insane.
do you do it?
I have no idea. It's an accident. I honestly, I think people just like to hear me yell about stuff.
I could see that. I do find them enjoyable. Okay. Do you think that BookTube is too positive?
I mean,
who do you hate the most on BookTube?
Jimmy.
Okay. Besides Jimmy, how do you feel about Philip Chase? I mean, do you hate him, or do you wish he would immediately die?
I mean, he does not. He did not continue after guards. So I think under your
oh wow, okay, yeah, wow, he quit.
He does not deserve to live. He swapped over to the death books.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you meant like he just quit Discworld or something.
Well, no, he read guards, took 2.5 years, and then read Mort.
Wow. Okay. This is a man who's read more than one Dresden Files novel.
He has, correct. He has read, I think, about half of the Dresden Files.
But he's like, but I just can't be bothered.
No, he can't be bothered.
I can't be bothered to read another Discworld novel.
Yeah, he's a medievalist, right? Yeah, he's a medievalist and has not yet, despite being recommended for 3 years now, he has not read the Warlord Chronicles. Despite the fact that he has like a PhD in Arthurian nonsense, has not read.
Yeah, but he's just like, okay, Harry Dresden thinking about women while fighting werewolves for another novel sounds great, but I can't be bothered to see what Terry Pratchett's up to in his imagination.
Correct. Correct. He's reading. Yes.
I say I've read 2 Dresden Files novels, and I was just like, I've tried to read the second one twice, and I've never finished it. I'm just kind of like,
for some reason, he keeps reading Book of the New Sun. Like he's read it like 12 times. Like he won't stop reading it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I do like that part. That part's good. Have you noticed like there's this tendency that people will say, well, he should be just a One Piece YouTuber. Honestly, he'd make so much more money. Like, but if you just like, there's this thing where people are like, Jared, or to you, I guess they would say Alan, you just got to read the first 14 Dresden Files novels. Yes, then they get good.
Yeah, you have to read the changes. And
you go, 14? Like, no, you're supposed to say you got to get past 3 chapters. Mm-hmm. Like that's the like it's this like I've gotten tired of being told hey, if you just got past this really bad novel that's going to take an entire week to read,
Yeah.
like, hey, if you just waste your life for a week, then you might enjoy it.
Yeah. People, I try to get people to read Long Price Quartet, and they'll read the first book and be like, I'm not really feeling it. I'm like, just finish the book. It's like 300 pages, literally. And yet, these same people, these exact same people that can't finish this 300-page Daniel Abraham book I recommended them that's really good, will again read Rhythm of War for the 4th time so they can update the wiki. And Rhythm of War is what, like 1,500 pages? And they can't finish one single 300-page novel and give me the benefit of the doubt.
It's
Gotta
absurd.
update that wiki, Jared.
You can hear them as they're talking to you. Just that click clack of of their keyboard. They don't know. They're like, I have already prepared the counter argument in my head for when someone reverts my edit. I already know what I'm gonna say. I've already got the wiki policy that I'm gonna cite when so and so, who always reverts my edits, is ready.
What must that subculture be like?
Oh yeah, man. I love like internet niche subcultures. I love kind of diving into how insane they get, like just like how unhinged they get. And I imagine Wikipedia editors are like the worst version of this. I don't know if you know that, like, if you've ever looked on for online hobby drama at all. This is something I'm not proud to enjoy this, but I do enjoy it. You should look for knitting communities. Knitting communities are like, they
What?
are the worst, apparently. There was a big schism in the knitting community about whether or not knitting is about social justice or knitting. That was the debate.
What?
and,
What?
and so knitting and that caused some big forum schisms. And so, you were looking for those earlier clown schisms. It has happened in the knitting community.
What?
Yes. So, and Wikipedia editors, I'm sure, have thoughts about all of this.
Is Wikipedia editing about Wikipedia editing, or is it about isn't Wikipedia editing really social justice fighting against?
I'm actually positive. I'm sure. I'm sure that, because that's like just one of. I mean, I'm sure that there's someone's like, it's actually about ethics in Wikipedia editing.
Oh my god! Oh my god! How do you feel about Wikipedia as a source for anything?
I think I think I remember looking at some peer reviewed stuff that said Wikipedia is basically as reliable as like Encyclopedia Britannica ever was.
Mhm.
And so, for instance, okay, when this philosopher Alistair McIntyre died yesterday, I wouldn't say anything about it publicly until I saw that it was updated on Wikipedia, because generally it means they're going to have at least like 2 sources or something.
Mhm.
And one of the things that is nice about Wikipedia is that they seem to be aware of the fact that if they're like hacked in some way, like if someone has found like a loophole, they change the rules.
Yeah.
So they are actually responsive. And I think so I'm fine with it. I mean, I wouldn't have ever let a student cite it in class, because
Mhm.
I would have taught them about actually going to the sources or something like that. I'm also a big believer that most of the time, if a student is citing a secondary source, it's pointless.
Yeah.
Like, you as a teacher, I don't know if you feel this way, but if you're teaching a classics class, you should just get them to like write as much as you can about the source material, and tell them to worry about secondary stuff like way down the line. Yeah.
Yeah. I say, guys, go look at Plutarch. Like, just go look at
Yeah.
Plutarch.
Yeah.
If you go to
Exactly.
Wikipedia, it's going to link you to Plutarch anyway. So
Yeah. Exactly. And then
that's what
you're
I like
gonna
about
have to.
Wikipedia is clicking on the little things that take you to the bottom to see where they got that information. Like,
Yeah.
I found some
Yeah.
sources I didn't know about
Yeah.
by clicking through a Macedon article somewhere.
Yeah. Who aside from Jimmy though, who's another booktuber that you hate?
Philip, aside from
Philip.
Jimmy and Philip, uh,
Aside from, well, Philip pays you, so we can't.
yeah,
You know, you can't.
yeah, but that makes him my boss. Plenty of people hate their
Yeah, that's a good.
boss.
Everybody hates their boss. That's a good point. Who else
Yeah.
do you hate?
Who else do I hate?
Yeah.
On BookTube.
Let's ask about people in this chat. How do you feel about Evie, Anita, and BellTube?
Okay, so I love all of them. Evie is my main Discord mod. Anita is the greatest loyalist, and BellTube's awesome. I like all these people.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to scroll through. I've already lost. I've lost faith in the bit. So
because I like everybody.
you liked it, yeah, yeah. What about Joanna?
Joanna and I used to be friends, but she
Mhm.
has found smarter readers than me. She now hangs out with people who read the Dispossessed correctly, and
Oh, okay,
that's
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a sort of world that you can join eventually. So
it. Once I read it the right way and stop thinking that Urus is just Earth.
there are some basic facts I would like you to get. Yeah, that's true. But you're gonna get them.
No, I love Simon also. Um, I like. Oh, I do hate Pete. I do hate Pete. That's true. I do hate Pete. Pete lives on a commune and has just the worst takes about basically everything. But he does
He
love the
lives on he,
Dispossessed.
he lives on a commune.
He might as well.
What kind of commune do you live on, Pete? Tell me
He,
about your commune.
they steal internet from the farmers nearby. They like
Oh
steal
my gosh,
Wi-Fi.
these are the parasites Ayn Rand was warning us about.
Who is John Galt? Look,
Me and Alan are gonna go. Dude, that novel starts off so serious, and you're like, and all the rich people went to a canyon called Galt's Gulch, and
oh,
like they like,
people hate on Atlas Shrugged.
yeah.
I found the stuff about the rail industry and steel industry really, really interesting. It
I
probably
so
hold on
I do believe I don't believe that Atlas Shrugged is as bad as people say. This is one of these things I'm willing to defend. The problem
nice.
is like everyone's like this novel is the worst, and I'm like, I'm sorry, man, you probably like worse novels. This
Like,
novel, Atlas Shrugged, is basically bad in kind of the ordinary way that a lot of novels are bad. Like it's kind of bad in like outside, not outside of the usual bounds. Um, it's just not good. Like it's cheesy,
it is
and
very cheesy.
it's overwritten. But it's like, come on, it's not nearly as bad as you say.
They
You're
made
like,
2 of 3 movies of Atlas Shrugged. It was supposed to
I
be
know,
three.
I love it. They got a ton of rich people to finance it, and then they were like, ah, sorry, we're not getting a return on this or something. I don't
I
know,
know, and
man.
they changed casts between movie 1 and movie 2. Everybody's different.
Yeah, you would think like get sufficiently rich donors to just like do this, but it's like, man, sorry, it's like I don't like Atlas Shrugged. I only read good novels. Have you read Rhythm of War? Like, like what's happening?
Okay, Jared,
What's happening here?
where did your particular brand of Sanderson vitriol come from?
I don't know, man. I think it's because actually, if you looked at my favorite fantasy novel books list, which I did like close to 3 years ago at this point, actually number 10 was the Cosmere, and I think I read a lot of Cosmere stuff and was like, it's not super well written, but like the multi connection like world stuff is like interesting enough that it makes the list, right? And then I just like kind of thought to myself like, that's a terrible line of reasoning. Like there are so many standalones or other series that I like better, and then I what happened is I was reading Era 2, Mistborn Era 2. And the first one, I was like, I kind of like the vibe of it. I was like, oh, it's like a little bit old Western and stuff. And then I thought, and the second one, I was like, am I enjoying this? Or am I reading this because it's like another book in the series? You know what I mean? Like the trough has refilled and I will now consume. While in my ears, I hear the podcast saying, don't worry, the trough will refill in 6 months.
And in the
And I think,
background, you hear the clicking of the Wikipedia
yeah,
editor
yeah.
adding to the
And,
17th shard.
And so I was like, I was just like, I can't do it. And then to just think, I will read one final book. I'll do my last hurrah. You know what I mean? It's like you have a girlfriend, you know you're gonna break up, but you're like, let's have dinner one more time, and then I'll pull the trigger. That's not the right way to know. That's not what I want to say. Like, we'll have dinner one more time, and then we'll go our separate ways, and then she's ordering appetizers and she's doing that annoying thing where she taps the menu or something over and over again, and you just leave without letting her know. Just
That
don't.
was you in Wind and Truth.
Yeah, that was me with Wind and Truth.
So,
So
so will you be reading book 6 of the Cosmere in 10 years?
I will never read another Cosmere book. I will never do it. I There are so many other things in the world to read, man. And I'm not even against just like reading books that aren't that good, but they're just kind of fun or something. I'm okay with you having like those fun books. What I realized was Sanderson stopped being fun for me. And it was like, okay, it's not adding anything else in my life, and it's not fun. So like, why am I doing this? You ever look at yourself in the mirror, Alan, and just like think like, how did I get here?
Every
Like,
day.
and this is
Every day.
and that's how I felt when I was reading Wind and Truth. And so, yeah,
Can I DNF my life like you
yeah.
did Wind and Truth?
No, don't do that. Don't do that because you have to read the Dispossessed. That'll
Oh,
get you at least another week.
but after that, it's okay, right?
No comment.
Okay, all right.
I just that's
Would you
between you
consider
and
yourself a
Christina.
book snob, Jared? I have a lot of people saying that you would have been perfect on the book snob tag. He doesn't do tags on his channel, guys, so he'd have to slum with the small ones to do it. But would you consider
Yeah, I've
yourself a
never
book
done a
snob?
book tag. I've never done one. I don't even really know what the point of book tags are. I mean, like I'm assuming there is a point to them. People enjoy them or something like that. But like I don't know what the function is.
It's I think it's just to have fun. It's just to have fun. And meanwhile, Jared he just took a huge like crap on everyone who has done a book tag.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay,
I
guys,
was I
y'all
was
heard him. Y'all heard him say.
I'm
I
saying
just I just don't understand what the point is.
like I see someone that will have like a tag video and I've never watched them cuz like I don't know what they are. I don't think I've ever been. Do you tag other people?
You legit you legit don't know what they are. Okay. So you do tag people at the end. They're really just questions related to books that
Oh.
people answer. So the
Oh,
book
okay.
snob tag is like, do you think that certain genres, like say erotica, are or are not literature? Or
Yes.
have you ever judged
Oh,
someone?
sorry. I shouldn't be answering it. I'm
Have you
spoiling
ever
the
judged someone for something
yeah.
they read? You've done that on this stream multiple times. So
Yeah.
yes would be the answer. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Well, look,
Yes,
I would
it's a
say
MySpace survey in video form.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. No, that's okay. I kind of get it then. Yeah, I did those back in the day. I might be just be too I'm just too out of date for it, man. I'm not up on the meta. And
Look, I'm not on the meta either. There are these people like, well, you clearly look at your stats. How often do you spend in your algorithm in your analytics tab, Jared?
less time than you'd think probably. Yeah. I spend more time what I all of the time I spend in my analytics is supposed to be sort of diverted back to brainstorming. It should always be in the service of brainstorming rather than just like obsessing over analytics. Yeah.
I I I legitimately I don't I wouldn't even know how to make sense of my analytics tag if I ever clicked on it. I click on it like every year, like once or twice, to see what my male to female ratio is, because Bookborn once told me that she has an 80% male ratio, 80 to 20 male viewers versus female viewers. And I was like, what's mine? And then I checked that out. That's it. And that's it.
Oh, okay. Do you want
Do you
to
know what?
here? Let me check and see this. I think I have looked at that before, but let me quickly see how many. What was my lady to man ratio like? Do you want to hear my live subscriber count?
Yes.
It's 527 and 31.
Thousand.
Yes,
Man.
527,031. Okay, audience. Let's see. My very large. I'm seeing the very large channel. My audience watched a lot of their videos because they used my exact title on something. So it was something for me to be angry about. 71% male, 27.7% female.
Oh wow. You also skew male heavy.
Yeah. I
Right
think
on.
at times I've been like 90% male. Yeah.
Brady has an actual question. Does Jared have a
Okay.
video or starting point for philosophy learning?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do. Um, a couple. I see a few people, by the way, saying, "Oh, that's a humble brag," or "This is a subtle flex." It's not a subtle flex.
It's
It's
overt.
not. It's not subtle. But I do. I have a couple of videos. I have one called Philosophy for Beginners. That one's okay. I have like a few things on like philosophy books to first ones you should read. If you typed in like Jared Henderson philosophy books, philosophy for beginners, you'd find a couple of videos like that. Yeah. I have one called I think like the 7 philosophy books for beginners, just like that title. And that would probably help you the most. And that's I think the most popular of those that I've done.
I'm trying to find mine.
Evie, some let's see. Um tangentially any female philosophers out there to read. Well, I let's do you just like just want me to just like name some women? Like is that like I mean Hannah Arendt is probably my favorite female philosopher currently. Like she's the one I read a lot. The book The Human Condition, Eichmann in Jerusalem, The Origins of Totalitarianism. She's great. I like Simone Weil a good bit. Um those would be two off the top of my head. But if you wanted more, Evie, you could just let me know and I would give you a few.
How do you feel
How
about
do I
people
feel about
stealing your content?
well, um I think that when people steal my content, if there was one time one guy not only stole my video title and my basically my thumbnail, but also the first like 30 seconds of his video was clearly like my script run through Chat GPT. And then he used some story beats that were very similar to mine. And it looked like clearly what he had done is like took my video and thought like, how can I change it just enough? There was one guy like that, and that enraged me.
I believe it.
Not because I felt like I'd been stolen from, but because it felt almost like you should be ashamed if you make a video like that. If you do that to somebody, you as a creator should be ashamed. That's why I felt that way. And typically if someone steals my video in that way, um that's how I usually feel. Like you should know better and you should hold yourself to a higher standard.
And so
Um
why don't they, Jared? Why don't they feel
that's
shame?
the big question. That's the big question, right? And I think it's at some point they should their value, I mean they do it in their self-interest or something, but like you should want to hold yourself to a higher standard. You should want to be excellent, and they seem uh to not want to be excellent, and that's the problem.
That is,
If I couldn't read philosophy, what would I read? I would just read. I'd probably just read science fiction, um, all the time. Yeah, or I'd read a lot of classics too. I'd probably like read like Russians, and yeah. Dilcor, by the way, is a really good video editor. He's got his stuff on his channel about like manga and stuff, and he's really good. He's a good storyteller.
oh,
So
awesome.
so him talking about pride there is good. Yeah. He did a
Shout
thing
out.
on Vagabond not being finished. It's kind of like the unfinished masterpiece. He knows what he's
I,
talking about.
this is what I try to convey to students because high schoolers do not value what is being given to them. Part of it is because they have garbage teachers. The other part is that their parents prioritize achievement and box checking. Like I'm a barrier to parents. They don't see me as something that like an addition. Like I'm not benefiting their kid. I am standing in the way of them and their GPA. Like that like legitimately. Um, except for the really good kids with the really good parents that I get. But most of them are like, I don't know why they're taking your stupid class. Um, but I try to teach these kids that, like, yeah, you can, like, you could cheat and you could do it this way. Not in my class, but in your other classes. Like, I really do try to get them to understand that they should take pride in what they do. Like, they
Yeah.
should do a good job because you should do a good job. Like you should find value in having worked on something as opposed to taking the absolute easiest route to what they think they want slash need.
There's this line from that book I mentioned before by Antonin Soutillonge, The Intellectual Life, um, that I think is going to be the epigraph to my book. It's always epigraph is a little quote at the beginning, right? Um, which is the reward of a work is to have produced it. The reward of effort is to have grown by it.
Heck yeah,
And that's
that's
what I want
awesome.
people to remember. It's that.
That's
It's that
fantastic.
it's that it's that you should have grown by the end of it.
Yeah, but they don't. That is not tangential. Like it's well, sorry, it's not tangible. Like that is not a tangible, immediate result. And so therefore, it does not have value, which is the problem with the humanities in education right now, anyway. Because
Yes.
you know, you're. I mean, you are one of the only people who can understand somewhere of where I'm coming from because I teach Latin, and so I'm already a teacher, which no one values, but I'm a Latin teacher. Like that's that's worse, and it doesn't make it better by saying I also teach Greek history. Like that isn't the like the building block that I think it is. You were a philosophy major, like there are entire joke books devoted to your specialization, so you get it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Um, you know what the funny part is right now is that lately humanities majors are actually doing better on the job market than a lot of market oriented majors like CS. Like the data is actually there. They're much more likely to be employed. For instance, than CS majors, though they're more likely to be underemployed than CS majors. You could speculate on why exactly that is, but um, I think what we're going to discover, Alan, is that this drive to make ourselves as marketable as possible or as practical as possible ends up being a thing that makes us that ended up being the impractical choice, and that reclaiming the humanities is the way forward. I don't know if that's just like
I dream of
self-justifying
that day.
cope, but
Look,
I don't know, man. Like I kind of want the AI. I want um the AI to take over. I want them to free us of the tedium so that you can just like read books all day and you could like memorize poetry in Latin and recite it for your friends
I,
and stuff.
I,
Like this is the world I desire, but
I
no one seems to want to bring about that world.
well, I don't
Instead,
want to
they're like,
memorize Latin
I've
poetry.
developed I've developed enough AI that's gonna improve my coding by 10x, and then I'm not gonna think about how to make the world easier to live in.
No, it's just gonna let. I don't really know what the end game is for this because it can't do like it messes up on like math problems, doesn't it? Like simple math problems. I don't know.
It can do code very well, actually.
Yeah,
I think someone just mentioned this. It can code pretty well. I think Claude 4 just came out. I kind of keep an eye on this stuff. I'd like to write some more about it in the future. And apparently it can code by itself for like a couple of hours before you need to intervene to like help clean it up.
what
Which
is
is pretty
what is
wild.
Claude for? Is that a different AI thing that isn't Chat GPT?
Yeah, yeah, it's done by a company called Anthropic, which does a lot more rigorous like testing and stuff. Uh,
Let me
Jimmy,
tell you what.
you can say Jimmy can say as a developer, it's not that great. Take it from the philosopher, okay, Jimmy.
I'll tell you what it can't do. AI has made my job no easier because what it can't do is write me practice. The hardest part of my job is because I don't like to use a textbook because the scope and sequence is never the order I want it to be in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Making up sentences for them to practice on.
yeah.
And it can't write them. It can't,
Hmm.
it, or it does not understand that, hey, that grammar is too advanced. I don't want you to use that. Only use this. I've even given it a subset of words. Construct me Latin sentences using only these words. It will still not do it. It'll still, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
okay, well, thank you for not making my job any easier. You could have taken this one tedious thing away from me,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
didn't. So
yeah.
thanks.
Exactly. That's what I'd like to see. I mean, just I'm just expressing my desires now, I guess. But like I want a world free of tedium, so that you could actually spend the tedious time like working on your own, learning the conjugations or something. Like working on this. Like how my understanding is, you learn Latin. Is Latin's a bit easier to learn than Greek at first.
Mhm.
And that one of the things though that eventually you have to do is you have to continue to read and study for a very very long for years to deal with the way like the subtleties and ambiguities that will crop up in more advanced like Latin poetry, and that's really something you just have to work on a lot. And so
Mhm.
it'd be nice to like automate the tedium of your life. Like I never want you to ever have to deal with another spreadsheet, Alan. Like that's what I want to go away. I want spreadsheets to be
Me too.
automated so that you have an extra 20 minutes a day to work on Latin so that one day Virgil makes sense to you. Like
Okay,
that
so
one day
I can
Virgil.
get Virgil as long as I've got them footnotes. As long as
Okay,
I've
yeah,
got
yeah.
like one of the far texts. But it's absolutely I don't get to teach advanced, like an actual advanced class every year. And when I'm teaching advanced, I am better at Latin when I'm teaching the advanced kids because I'm doing challenging stuff instead of bobo basic crap that really everyone should be able to do within 2 months of taking class if they actually just put some effort into it. But for 2 years, I got to do bobo crap. And then the third and fourth year, if I have a good class, I can actually do some hard stuff. And like it starts ramping up, and you have to get used to each author's eccentricities on
Yeah.
what words are they leaving out, like what verbs are they using 2, 3, 4 times but only writing once. What half of this grammatical construction did they just omit, but you're supposed to understand that this is a future infinitive, and every single one of them is different. And that's why Cicero is like one of the hardest to read because of the eccentricities he
And
uses when writing.
I also imagine that your students are suffering from the fact that they don't understand English grammar, so they don't understand parts of speech or the various moods and tenses, and so then you actually have to teach them from the ground up. Like Latin is where they go to learn grammar now.
It is. It is. The amount of children that have gone through my class that said I learned more about English in this class than I did in my English class is it is uncountable. They say it all the time.
Yeah,
They say it all the time.
I'm 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 actually I hated doing it as a kid, but I'm a big fan. I think we got to make people like diagram sentences again. Like
Hmm.
you should be diagramming sentences because it is boring, but it teaches you the way these things work.
For
Can I
sure.
tell you about a project that I just started this morning, Alan?
Sure.
About for my own writing. I was reading my own writing and I thought this sucks. I was feeling my writing felt very stale, and in part because over the past couple of years I've really forced myself to be very conversational and to write for a very broad audience. I write on Substack. I've got a fairly large and successful Substack. I'm writing this book. It's for I'm trying to also not write like an academic. So
Mhm.
first the academic stuff taught me to be as clear as possible. And now I've like learned how to be as broad as possible. And what I really felt like I lost was like style and elegance and any kind of like sense of beauty.
Mhm.
So what I started doing today is I'm picking out books or stories or essays that I really love and I'm copying by hand the first page of those. So I did one of those this morning. I'm going to fill up a notebook with this
I
and what I and I spent it took me 10 or 15 minutes to do a page because I was reading the sentence, making sure if I messed up I started over on the sentence level, and doing that made me see all of these like little things that these great writers do, but we never pay attention to language like that. And
no.
I'm in my 30s and I'm forcing myself to do this for the first time
I just
in a
told my
long time.
kids, just like this past month when we're talking about, because I did a lesson on Roman education about what you're doing, copywriting, which is like that's what the Romans would do. They would copy on their tabulae, um, passages from Homer and
Yeah,
passages from
yeah.
Virgil and passages from Demosthenes and Plato, and they would copy that down because these great writers and speakers and orators, that is how they trained their minds to know what a good sentence sounds like, to know
That, by the way,
what.
that's why you would like this book because it's like traces the history of that from the ancient world on
Oh, that's
topics.
okay.
Each chapter will be like learning to read, and so it'll be like how did like the Latin speakers teach it to learn how to read?
Yeah,
How was that different when this guy was growing up in Argentina? Like what does that tell us about the mind? Like that's the kind of stuff he's writing about. Or he has an entire chapter on the shape of books,
that's
going
cool.
back to wax tablets that were folded over,
And
and
what
it's
Caesar invented the codex, which was like pages, like I guess like sewn together, like it's a
yeah,
like
yeah,
a,
yeah, yeah.
like a proto book type thing. Yeah.
And literally, like when we talk about folios and quattros and octavos, it's just because of parchment being folded in a certain way. And Manguel just like writes beautifully, but just to see that, for instance, for a long time, people expected to be read to rather than read, and they expected to never write anything down
Mm.
themselves. And so what they would do is they would just memorize tons and tons of writing. Manguel used to read for Borges actually as a teenager. He would go to Borges' apartment. Borges lost his sight when he was in his 50s. So this great writer can't read anymore. So Manguel would go to his apartment and read for him. And Borges suddenly, in the middle of like a recitation of Heine or Kipling, would just start reciting it. and it was, and I think he says that Borges never stumbled on the words, he only stumbled on the cadence. Like so he always, and so from memory he could just do it, and he had just like digested it all, right? Or Borges once on the spot made up a list of bad lines from famous writers, and then was telling
Awesome.
Manguel how he would fix them.
That's awesome.
So there's this line that Borges that from Hamlet. Let me see if I can just quickly find this. Um, he makes up this list, and one of them is from Hamlet, and it's where, um, oh, okay, in Hamlet, Hamlet yells, "Oh, my prophetic soul, my uncle," and Borges apparently hated the word uncle, and so he thinks it should have been my father's brother or my mother's kin, because it would have sounded better, and he could have
It
told you the
does sound
context and
better.
like
It
why
does sound
and
better.
why it would sound better, right? And he's just like uncle, and just from memory he could remember these lines that had stood
That's
out from him that were bad in addition to good, and it just like shows like we lack that digestive quality to prose. Like we just don't do that to writing anymore, and we're probably worse for it. And so part of what I'm trying to do by just writing these things down is to just get myself to think a little bit about it. Like the
hmm
fact that the last sentence of the last paragraph of the Library of Battle by Borges is about infinity, and then it ends with an ellipse rather than a period. Okay, it sounds really obvious when you put it this way,
Yeah,
but they did it because an ellipse is like what you use in mathematics to indicate that a sequence can continue into infinity.
that's awesome.
That's why he does it. And it's like
Yeah.
I didn't think about it when I first read it, right? So
The the kids are always just gobsmacked when I tell them that Greeks and the Romans, they memorized the Iliad and the Odyssey,
yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah,
16,000 lines of poetry each, and they just knew it by heart because that's what they did. Like you just memorize it. Like it's like the capacity for memory was greater because they had to. Like they had to memorize it.
This is why Socrates is against writing, because he thinks it's going to
Yes,
destroy memory.
yes,
That's his critique. Yeah,
yes, completely. Yes, yes, yes.
yeah,
Um, but we do not in school teach how to write beautifully, how to write with style or any kind of like artistic flair. They do not teach it.
no,
They teach yeoman's prose, like uh, have your introduction, and
yeah.
then and they've
They
at
don't
least
even teach they don't even teach Orwell style. You know, Orwell had the plain style that was kind of a big thing for him.
yeah
They don't even teach that
no
because he values clarity, and they are so formulaic, right? Like
they literally
that you
yeah
can't.
they teach them to start with a question. And I'm like, if I look at any of y'all's essays, because I taught English the first year I started teaching, if I look at anything, have you ever wondered? I'm like, shut up, just write your paper. Do not ask me, have I ever wondered whatever? Like, don't. Please just write your paper. Please. Like, I know what the paper's about. Stop. They do it
Yeah,
even when I
yeah,
give them projects about like famous Romans. Like, have you ever, what would you do if you had to just stop? It's about Tiberius Gracchus. Just write about
yeah.
Tiberius Gracchus in some way that isn't terrible. It's all
No,
formulaic. Like they follow a formula.
exactly. So I think just paying attention, grabbing examples that you like, and showing them. It's hard though. I mean, you're fighting the good fight because like you're trying to like change these kids' hearts and minds or something. But how do you do it in 45 minutes a day or whatever that you have for them, and knowing that you're only going to have them for a year?
No,
But
I am fortunate in that I am one of the only teachers. I get them for at least two, and I get many of them for 3 and 4. Um, and that's the only way I can do it. Is I really can only work on the third years and the fourth years because they've been exposed to me for 45 minutes a day, oftentimes twice a day, because sometimes I'll take my Latin and history class, and
okay,
so
yeah,
then I just wear them down. I just wear them down, like wear them down with character matters. I don't understand why that's a hard concept. Like
yeah.
character matters.
I'm
Everyone
yeah,
everyone in the ancient world thought that. Everyone thought that and believed that.
yeah. This is primarily why I write in terms of virtues. I think I in the book I talk about like instead of arguing for the intellectual or philosophical life in terms of other stuff, I just talk about some virtues that it helps you develop. To just say it's going to make you feel like you're a better person. We don't like that phrase because we think it means it's like implying that like I'm judging you or something like this. But I'm saying no, it's going to like look at you at yourself now and say, would I like to be better tomorrow?
Yes.
It's like that's the question, and there are certain things you can do that aren't self improvement in the sense, like the hack sense, right? But in the sense of genuinely developing your character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's crucial. It's an ancient assumption that we really did lose. We did not lose it until fairly recently. That's the thing. Even in the humanists, like in the Enlightenment, character is still being held up, right? So it's really kind of an invention of like the last maybe 200 years that where character, or maybe even the last 100 years, where character falls out of the picture. Um,
It
I don't know
used to be our
why.
job. It used to be the job of a teacher to mold character as well, as opposed to imparting, I don't know, information so they can get a grade or whatever. And I
Yeah,
still try to do that. And it's easy in Rome. Like in the Romans, I just I'm like, guys, I talk about humanitas and integritas is the big one, like integrity, and they just don't see, a lot of times they just don't see the value. Like they don't,
yeah,
they
yeah.
they just, you know.
All right, I'm gonna have to go soon. I realize we've been
Hey,
talking for
I
almost
gotta go
3
also. I was about
hours,
to say that too. Yes.
but people should also read this book by Virginia Tuft called "Artful Sentences: Syntax as Style." I don't know if my autofocus is really working here, but anyway, if you want to learn how to be a better writer, she just goes through like, let's talk about to be phrases, and we're just gonna go through a bunch of examples that are good and a bunch of examples that are bad. And I think actually getting a grasp on English syntax is the first thing you need to do before you worry about English style, because I don't know about the rest of you here. My actual sense of syntax is pretty undeveloped compared to some very, very good writers who I should be better than them, at least in terms of my education or something, and I'm not. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I will dedicate myself to learning a bit more about syntax. But
What
Alan,
was
I
that
had a
one
great
called?
time.
I did too.
It was called Artful Sentences: Syntax as Style.
Artful sentences. I had a great time also. Thank you for carving out, this time to come in and basically go after Jimmy. And there was a wild run in there for a little bit. Like it got.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jimmy. This stream was all right. Oh my god, Jimmy. Okay, look, brother. I know this is some kayfabe nonsense, and we're gonna talk about this, right? I'm going back on the top of the card. Whatever, I'm coming off the top rope, and you're just trying to pick fights, heel turns, etc. See, I know the lingo, Jimmy. All right, you want to talk about? No, this was top tier content. All right, and I know something about top tier content, by the way.
Look,
So,
Chumley.
so
Oh, Chumley has the bed tonight.
you just have the chair. I'm sorry, buddy.
Oh my gosh, I can't. I can't. So Jared, thank you so much, guys. If you're not subscribed to Jared, go subscribe to him so you can learn about smart things. And
Don't worry
also,
about this. Don't worry about this part, Alan.
I do this
Just go
part
ahead.
anyway. Well, I'm also going to shout out old Dilcor, in case people forgot your shout out of Dilcor. There's some people checked out Dilcor's channel while we were talking and said they liked his voice. So
Yeah,
anyway.
that Vagabond video is really good. He's a solid editor. He knows what he's doing. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
But yeah, so standard YouTube closeout, and hopefully Jared and I will talk again. We'll talk once I finish the Dispossessed for sure.
Yeah, that
And I
that
might
sounds
take
good.
Jared up on asking him about history videos. So, we'll see.
That would be great too.
Or I'll ignore him for another 2 months.
Hey, if I don't hear from you, I hope that the birth of your second child goes off without a hitch.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Y'all stay safe and remember to always keep turning the page.